Speed kills as the Reds walk it off at GABP. The Bengals dodged a bullet at camp yesterday. And with Rapien away, well, that means more Ohio State football talk is on the way. All of that and more. Here's First Word.
Welcome to First Word, Cincinnati's only morning sports show, breaking down the biggest moments and the stories shaping Cincinnati sports with analysis that cuts through. First Word, setting the agenda in Cincinnati sports.
Welcome into a fired up Friday edition of First Word here on The Crown. Marisa Contipelli alongside Jacob Tissot. James Rapien taking some time off today on this Friday, but we have a jam-packed show for you. A thrilling win over at Great American Ballpark last night for the Reds. The Bengals back in training camp. SC Cincinnati is going to be back in action tomorrow. As I mentioned, Ohio State football talk on the way. We have Joe Danneman in studio later this morning. I don't know what more you could want on a Friday.
Great Friday morning. Couldn't be more excited to be here and ready to get rolling. 7:01. So let's get this ball rolling.
Yeah, let's get it rolling. Just like the Bengals have been rolling over at the practice fields at Paycor Stadium. It's been so nice and refreshing to have football back in our lives, back on our timelines. If you've had a chance to get over there, it's been some pretty exciting action. And from what we saw yesterday out at camp, it's guys are thriving. It seems like, the defense is making plays and stepping up. And especially when it comes to the defensive side, definitely feels like the Bengals kind of dodged a bullet there with the Shamar Stewart news.
No question about it. I think we all saw the slow-mo. We played it on the show yesterday, and it was a nightmare scenario for the Bengals. And the player on this team that probably could have benefited most from training camp, still most likely going to miss the bulk of training camp. But great news as Shamar Stewart avoided structural damage to his knee, hyperextension without ligament damage. And yesterday we heard from Zach Taylor after the news broke.
All right, Shamar Stewart yesterday fortunately avoided a major injury, so he hyperextended his knee. It'll be several weeks. Hard to pinpoint exactly how much in training camp that'll be, but very fortunate because it obviously looked bad, and he's put in a lot of work, so hard to see him go down like that. But the good news is we'll be getting him back sooner rather than later. That's all I got.
Is the official update that we did receive from Schefter yesterday. So the fact that there's belief is no ligament damage is just mighty, mighty good news on this Friday morning as well, because it absolutely looked scary, especially in the slow-mo videos that we had shown yesterday. I'm really glad it's just a hyperextension and nothing more.
Yeah, I really couldn't believe this when it hit the timeline yesterday. I thought the best case scenario was even worse than the current scenario. I didn't think there was really going to be a route where Shamar Stewart was going to avoid something serious here. Obviously, nothing to mess around with a knee injury for a player who's such a freak athlete. Always a little bit of concern around recovery there, but great news that it doesn't seem like he's going to miss significant time. Now, it is a shame that he's going to miss now his second training camp in the NFL for different reasons, obviously, but it's going to be great to have him in that defensive line and edge rush room throughout the season. We talked so much throughout the offseason about the versatility of the four guys that are going to be leading that edge rush room. That changes so drastically without Shamar Stewart out. There was a chance that we were going to have to talk about, will the Bengals add to that edge rush room if Shamar was out for a significant time? And I don't know that any of us necessarily believed that either. So this is phenomenal news for the Bengals because they did so much work on the defense this year with an expectation that the edge rush room was in an okay spot, that those four guys could get it done with only the addition of Boy Mafe after losing Hendrickson and Osai. Losing Shamar Stewart would have unraveled the plans for that defensive line big time. So a huge, huge win for the Bengals, and it really seems like just good vibes continuing through camp after the one bad thing from day one seems to be done now.
Yeah, we had heard from Al Golden earlier this week about just how important this camp is going to be. They expect big things out of Shamar Stewart, taking that jump from year one to year two. He needs the reps, and so he needs to be out there. So really hoping it won't be an extended period of time that he will miss practice-wise, but it seems like very good news on the Shamar Stewart front. As for some scuffles we had at the start of camp, it was something the players felt like there was a little bit of an edge happening with this team. Joe Burrow spoke about it. What about Jamar Chase? What did he have to say about that little scuffle and just overall the tone and feel of camp? Let's listen in to the receiver.
What's the hardest part as you kind of continue to elevate your game 85 ways to grow when you kind of feel like make your post. How much more do you feel like you have to go to do given what you've already done so far in your career?
It's a lot I can still do. You know what I'm saying? There's still a lot I could do at the end of the day, man. I'm still young at the end of the day. I still have more space to grow, still more space to learn, and it's only gonna take a matter of time.
Joe, like where? In what areas?
Routes, recognizing. I mean, I had MAs yesterday. You know what I'm saying? I had maybe like 2 MAs today. You know what I'm saying? It's not like I missed assignments. It's just on how I ran a route. You know what I'm saying? Me and Joe already talking on how we could adjust things to make it an explosive. And, you know, when I finally get it in camp, it's just how can I react to it when I see it in the game? You know, so we practice it now. And then when the game comes, that's when, you know, we see it, we attack it, it's explosive.
Joe talked about taking more of an intensive, that's the right word, it was the word he used, leadership role in the locker room. Do you anticipate changing your approach with teammates?
I'll probably be a little more vocally, you know what I'm saying, if anything, but I'm still going to be my same self. I mean, the guys know how I am, you know what I'm saying? They know that I have a lot of fire underneath me. Most majority of the time, if I'm talking a lot, it's probably coming from emotion, you know what I'm saying? So I'll still be the same guy, but I don't mind Joe with a little fire underneath him. I like it.
Joe said this year's team reminds him of the LSU team in that team. Would you agree with that?
I don't know. We felt it around this time. You know what I'm saying? I can't really say what he feels. You know what I'm saying? We got 2 different feelings, but I can definitely say it's a big difference in the defense and the offense this year. You know what I'm saying? The intensity is high. I feel like we got a good opportunity this year. You know what I'm saying? We just gotta capitalize when it happens, and we'll see how it happens when, you know, somebody steps up to us and hit us. So that's what it's about.
What did y'all feel on that team? What
did we feel? We were either feeling the offense is this good or the defense is really bad, and it was neither. So, you know.
Is this the best Bengals team you've been on?
Ask me at the end of the year. Yeah, can't say that now.
What is the craziest coverage or craziest thing a defensive coordinator has designed now that you've been in the NFL for as long as you have, that you've seen, that you just looked back and you were like, that was
probably KC, Kansas City. Just so many rotations going on, and I wasn't that good at reading it at first and stuff. So there was a lot of rotations going on, and that's when Tyrann Mathieu was playing. So Joe was doing a good job of just checking it and helping the receivers out on just reading the defense.
What do you think of the team, the front office, bringing in Super Bowl caliber talent, guys with rings, guys who desperately want rings like Dexter? How did that impact you when you heard that news?
Honestly, I didn't know we were going to get Dex at all. I didn't know that, but I love it. At the end of the day, I feel like that's the front office showing that they want to help us win. You know what I'm saying? They hear what we're saying. They hear what we need. Whether it's coming from me, Joe, or T, whoever it's coming from, you know, they hear it. And at the end of the day, they're trying to help us make an impact on this.
Now that you see them on the field or for a couple of practices now and saw them in OTAs and in camp, what impresses you about the way they go about their business?
Who, the Bengals? Front office or Dex?
No, Dex, Brian Cook, who you're going to be going against in practice.
Honestly, it's really fun. Like yesterday, I heard Dex talk for the first time, and I heard he was a big trash talker, so I was excited when I heard it. Like, that made me a little excited, you know what I'm saying? So I love it. And me and Cook, honestly, me and him, this is our first conversation today, you know what I'm saying? I haven't really talked to him much. No grudge against him, I just haven't talked to him much, but I think it'll be fun. He knows my tendencies, he knows stuff from KC. I think it'll be good just for me to ask questions from him, pick his brain, see what he got going on. So at the end of the day, it's all to make each other better.
You're excited that he's a trash talker because of what can happen in practice, or that he'll give it to the other team?
And to the other team. I'm not worried about what he do to us. I mean, you could do it to us, but you do it during game times the most. Yeah.
Why do you want that from the defense?
Unity. It's going to bring unity to the defense. You know what I'm saying? They all play as one. And they're already playing feisty. I want them to be more feisty so they can have each other back. You know what I'm saying? So that's what it's about, more bonding with the team.
I think when y'all signed, Cook was, I believe, there was a lot of back and forth in 22. This when y'all and them going into that game, I think. Cook.
It wasn't that much. It was just blown out of proportion. I didn't even really know who he was at the end of the day. I didn't, and I think I said that in one of the interviews, and it was blew up. But I didn't do research on Cook, so now I know who he is.
Is it crazy that all these years later y'all are teammates, given all that?
I mean, it's the NFL. It would happen eventually with somebody that I talk trash to on the internet. So I mean, it'll happen eventually. Yeah.
Jalen Davis kind of has a wild story. The fact that he's had to work this hard to be a starter. Is that something you quietly pulled for after knowing?
JD?
Yeah, the road he took to.
JD's always been a good player, savvy. I think he's a savvy vet. You know what I'm saying? He plays a little aggressive to say he's that small, but he plays very aggressive. He's smart. He knows tendencies really well. I think that's what really gives him an opportunity to be a starter.
You were pretty honest in saying like it's pretty obvious something needs to change after last season.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel like the players that were added was maybe the change that you were looking for?
Yeah, I would say a big step on the D-line. You know, that helped us a lot. In the back end, you know what I'm saying? Cook coming in. We got, I don't know his man's name. I just knew his name earlier, telling T. The other safety came from Pats.
Tugger?
Yeah. Kyle Duggar. So, and I know he come downhill pretty hard. He's a big, tough guy. So, it'll be good to just see everybody come in off rotation, just see how they play off each other. So.
Man, have I missed Jamar Chase press conferences in my life. Really good stuff from Uno there. But the thing I can't get over him saying is just the difference in the defense and just that different intensity that they're bringing. It's been feisty out there at camp. That and just mentioning how the front office has made making sure that they made an impact in bringing these additions to the team, and that the front office listened to them, they heard them, and that's a really similar sentiment to what we had heard from Joe Burrow this offseason.
I think that's the most encouraging thing for me, at least so far through the first 2 days of camp. It's very hard to take real football things away from camp with the news about Shemar Stewart's injury. That's great to avoid that moving through day 2, but for Jamar Chase to echo the same sentiment Joe Burrow did, and quite frankly the coaches have throughout minicamp and now through the first couple days of training camp, that there is a noticeable difference between just the size and physicality of the defense and also the edge that they have to them, I think is phenomenal to hear. That was the hope when you bring in proven players like Brian Cook, Dexter Lawrence, Boy Mafe, and even Kyle Duggar for what he's done for so long in the league. You wanted to feel it right away, and I think that's what you gain when you add those proven players as opposed to guys who are trying to prove it for the first time here. They can come in and flip that switch right away, and I think we've seen that from the way Dexter Lawrence has carried himself in practice and the interactions with a lot of guys in different position groups and on the other side of the ball, and it's really encouraging to hear Jamar Chase say that the defense looks a lot better this much earlier, because I think if they look better this much earlier, then what do they look like at the end of August and at the beginning of September, and then hopefully even better in November and December? This group can get better and better all year long. I don't think there's going to be a point in this season where we're sitting here saying the Bengals defense has reached their peak. There's going to be chances for them to continue to grow and get better. So really excited to see everyone saying that that's jumping off the page in the first couple days.
Yeah, no doubt about it. The front office showing them that they want to help them win. And so far, we're seeing those benefits out on the field. Let's take a look at some highlights from camp day 2. And right there, so glad to have Eric All back on our screens. We'll have an update about his status coming up here in just a bit. But this might have been one of the big highlight plays on the day right there. Just, I'm sorry, this next one that we're going to be having here is you're going to have Demetrius Knight picking off Joe Burrow. And especially on that play, Barrett Carter kind of blowing the play up in the middle.
I don't think there's anything I'm going to be happier about than linebacker highlights in training camp. The biggest question mark going into week 1 is what kind of steps can Barrett Carter and Demetrius Knight take this year with better pieces around them. So far in camp, it's been all good things. A lot of great comments about leadership from Barrett Carter and Demetrius Knight making plays all over the field. So great to see from those guys. But the offense shining as well. And Dax Hill, a guy who has really shined in the first couple days of training camp. DJ Turner, the big name being talked about for extensions, but Dax Hill going into a contract year as well. And if anyone has shined through the first couple days in that corner room, it's been him. And here's the wide receiver 3 that everyone's talked about. Jamar talked about him yesterday. Joe Burrow talked about him earlier. Andre Oshivas making plays. And if he can make plays like that in this receiver room, I think it's going to change a lot of things with this offense.
Yeah, it absolutely will. Excited to see how that battle continues to play out. But for me, seeing Eric All back with this team, I have high hopes and expectations for what All is going to do for the Bengals this season and just that difference that he's going to make on the field. But it hasn't been the easiest road and stretch for All. And even after after he's recovered, still facing adversity in this way. Reporters caught up with Eric yesterday, and he said he was hit by a moped-type vehicle when he was in Greece. It threw him to the ground, scraped his face up a bit, but that he was fine. Said it was big for him getting his confidence because he's normally the hammer, but took his first pancake and was fine. I almost didn't believe this when I saw this come through X yesterday, but Eric All just saying that this was kind of the moment he felt like he was really back from his injury.
Whatever it takes, I guess. If we can avoid being hit by mopeds from here on, that would be great. But it's great to have Eric All back, and it's nice to see this because this is the type of player he is. He's a guy who's incredibly physical, plays well around the line of scrimmage, and craves contact. And it's something we saw in his college career and early with the Bengals before he got hurt. So it's a great story, and just I think gets more and more people in his corner as we get ready for week 1.
Yeah, I need to make sure Eric and everyone here at First Word and at the desk avoids any type of moving vehicles that could be in their way. But we are just getting started here on First Word. When we return, time to take a dive into the Reds. A late comeback, thrilling win over at Great American Ballpark. That and plenty on the way in While You Slept.
Chris Henry Jr., a promising freshman, the son of the former Bengal Chris Henry, he's got a chance to be in that rotation. Brandon Ennis returning as well. They brought in a couple of transfers, Devin McEwen from San Antonio and Kyle Parker from LSU. So they've got some guys around Jeremiah Smith that will take some of the heat off of him. He may miss Carnell Tate taking some of those double coverages away, though.
Steve, you're leading this conversation perfectly because I wanted to ask you about Chris Henry Jr. and the rest of that receivers room, and with Chris Henry Jr. coming in as a 5-star prospect, really, really excited to see him out there on the field. Just maybe what are some of your early expectations, for this youngster coming in and making an impact on this offense?
Yeah, he's obviously one of the top 25 players in the country coming out of high school out in California. And again, he is a guy that can stretch defenses vertically and horizontally. He's got the size, 6'4", to go up and take the ball away from a defensive back. I don't want to say he's Randy Moss or anoint him in any way. In that regard, those would be unfair comparisons for such a young guy. But I think he did impress the coaching staff. Cortez Hankton, the new wide receivers coach who replaced Brian Hartline, coming in from LSU, and also Arthur Smith, the new offensive coordinator. I think they really liked some of the young playmakers that they saw in this offense. And Chris Henry Jr., I think he's going to get every opportunity to start for this team. Maybe not in the first game, maybe not in the second game at Texas, but I would think very soon in this season, he's going to be out there for a lot of the plays. And I think he's a guy that's going to be a lot of fun to watch, I think, for Buckeye fans for the next couple of years.
This is the Rebound Rundown. I'm your host, Paul Fritchner. Your home for college basketball in the Cincinnati area and across the country every Monday through Friday during the season. Previews, recaps, breakdowns, interviews, and more. You can find it all right here. Your one-stop shop for a quick dose of college hoops on your morning commute. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts.
Every morning, Cincinnati wakes up and gets to work. Companies are built, deals are made, restaurants open, ideas become careers, and every day the people behind it all sit down at the working lunch. Founders, CEOs, entrepreneurs, community leaders, the people building Cincinnati. The Working Lunch with Jack Crumley, weekdays, noon to 1, only on The Crown.
This city deserves its crown. Watch, listen, subscribe.
It's a fired up Friday here on First Word, and I'm still fired up because the Reds took game 1 against the Pirates over at Great American Ballpark last night. Alongside Jacob Tissot, I'm Marisa Contipelli, and I was at the ballpark, and it was one of those games where I wasn't sure how it was going to end because it was just a weird kind of tone and feel to it. Overall, obviously, Rhett Lauder did what he needed to do, but offensive-wise, that 9th inning, and Ellie setting the table, setting the tone, getting on with that leadoff double. But the hero of the night, the unlikely speedster, Nathaniel Lowe, coming up clutch.
It was awesome, and I felt like I was pretty sure how that game was going to end. I felt like we've seen this play out a lot for this Reds team so far this year, but it was great to see them hold on, and not just hold on, but get a run when they needed it most in the bottom of the 9th. This is something that this team hasn't done a great job of this year, but one thing Ellie De La Cruz always seems to do is follow up rough games with great games. His best seemed to come right after his worst. He bounces back better than anyone in the league, and after a rough one earlier this week, he had potentially one of the best games in a Reds uniform last night. 2 doubles, a run scored right there, and 2 stolen bases as well. Just an unbelievable game for Ellie. Scored the game-winning run, and here you see the speedster, Nate Lowe, legs it out for the win. Lowe was moving on that one. On that fielder's choice, he reached 27 feet per second on that sprint to first base. His season average, 25.6. So fastest sprint speed of the season for Nate Lowe. Got it done for the Reds. You see the 12 left on base. Doesn't hurt quite as bad when you get the win, but still not what you want to see from this Reds offense. Rhett Lauder looked great yet again. Second straight start where he looks like he's returned to form. Still that ugly 16 back in the National League Central, but 5.5 in the wild card. Who knows what can happen there?
Exactly. That number 5 is the one I always go back to. But with Ellie, don't cut him short there. He had 3 doubles on the night, not just.
Did I say 2?
Yeah,
oh, he had
the
3 doubles.
He had 3 doubles. Yeah, we have a great stat for you coming up later in the show about just what Ellie did last night in a Reds uniform. But for me too, it started with Rhett Lauder and wanting to make sure that he went out there. Similar type performance that he did a week ago against the Cardinals. And that's what was big for me because he went into that Cardinals series, set the tone, made sure the Reds were in a position to take game 1. They did, went on to win that series, and we saw a very similar thing from him last night and really looked good for the most part. Obviously gave up the home run, but up to that point, really just that sac fly was the only kind of trouble he had gotten into.
Yeah, it's going to happen. Runs are going to happen. If Rhett Lauder's going to go out there and give you 6 innings of 2-run ball, I'm going to be really, really excited about it. I think this is, we talked about it yesterday going into the game, one of the biggest things for this Reds team moving through the rest of this year is figuring out where Rhett Lauder can slot in this rotation. We've seen times where he looks like he's as good as any arm the Reds have, and we've seen times where maybe a move to the bullpen is the way to go. So hopefully it's more of these last 2 as the season progresses. He was great last night, and the most important thing to me, 2 walks over the last 2 starts. 11 innings, 4 runs, 2 walks over his last 2 starts. Great to see from a guy who really struggled with command earlier this year. That's what unraveled his starts before he went to the injured list. And it's great to see that now he's back in that rotation after spending some time in the bullpen. Mm-hmm. He seems to have that stuff dialed back in.
He does. Yeah, it was phenomenal to see. And yeah, really good start for the Reds. This 4-game set against the Pirates continues with game 2. We will have a preview coming up later in the show and plenty more to kind of dissect and digest from last night's game coming up here on the show as well. But the Reds did announce a few moves before first pitch yesterday. We saw Matt McLain rejoin this Reds team and was back in the lineup, activated off the 10-day injured list. They did option down a couple of guys, though, including Chase Petty and Edwin Arroyo. Surprise, kind of is maybe what you were expecting. We knew he had some of those, recent defensive struggles there at second and at the plate, a little inconsistent.
He's been a fine back-of-the-order bat, certainly nothing great, but he needed to be an elite defender to make it work in the majors, especially with what Matt McLain provides at second base. There's not a big enough discrepancy between the 2 bats for the discrepancy we've seen so far defensively. McLain was, even when he's struggling at the plate, really, really good at second base. So getting him back up here, relying on that, and that's kind of what Terry Francona said. It's not as much about the offense. We need the consistency in the middle infield. So Matt McLain back with the team, started last night, got an RBI. So hopefully headed in the right direction. As much as we talked about, it would be great to see Edwin Arroyo take a few steps through the back half of this year. It would be just as big to see Matt McLain show some flashes of that 2023 form. So whoever's going to play second base for the Reds, hopefully it's one of those two guys, and hopefully they have success. So I'm going to be really excited to see either one of them through the stretch of this year. I think there is a little bit more to gain from Arroyo in AAA than McLain in AAA. So I think that makes a lot of sense to let him work on his defense there. And then we'll see McLain and Ellie in the middle infield for the rest of this year, if I had to guess.
Yeah, McLain got things going for the Reds in the third, got on base, and then ended up scoring when Ellie De La Cruz drove him in. So nice to see McLain making an impact on this team. The Bengals, well, they avoided a pretty big scare that happened on day one of camp when Shamar Stewart went down with a lower leg injury, was carted off the field. Everyone concerned to the massive amount here in Cincinnati. But we got good news on that front yesterday. Reports coming out, and Zach Taylor speaking with media, that looking like avoiding anything major with Shamar Stewart, just a hyperextended knee that he will have treatment on. Belief is that there is no ligament damage and he should be good to go.
Unbelievable win for the Bengals to have this news break yesterday. I was shocked to hear it. I thought the best case scenario was even worse than this one. So great news for the Bengals that Shamar likely won't be missing too much time. Don't know if he'll be back ready by week 1, but hopefully not on the PUP list or anything like that, keeping him out for the first 4 weeks of the season. We'll see what happens throughout camp, how he responds to some of this treatment, but no ligament damage feels like as good a news as we could possibly have hoped for yesterday.
Absolutely. I'm hoping that it's only maybe a couple weeks here and we can see him by the end of August, so he has an opportunity to, maybe get in for that final preseason game.
That would be the hope. Obviously, he's going to miss most, if not all, of training camp now, and a guy who really could have used a lot of those reps. But still, regardless, 2 days ago, we were talking about potentially being without Shamar Stewart for the whole season. Now, at least we'll have him for some of it, probably most of it. So great news for Shamar, a guy who showed flashes before getting hurt last year. Looked really good in that Browns game in the opener. Couldn't stay on the field throughout the rest of the year. So hopefully this is now the last bump in the road, can put it behind him, stay on the field, and take some steps in this new look Bengals defense.
Yeah, hopefully we will see Joe Burrow stay on the field for the entirety of the 2026 season. As the NFL Top 100 continues their rankings, Joe Burrow came in number 44 on their list for this season.
Burrow and Tom Brady.
Let's go! Let's go, guys! Come on!
You could compare the two. Like, they're in the pocket, smart kind of quarterbacks. Pick up reads and blitzes easily.
Slant. Nice. Touchdown. Nice. To me, he's a tremendous player. I love the way that he leads this team.
Yeah, I kind of think they play similar.
Show you, John. Keep going.
I always love the comparisons to Tom Brady when it comes to Joe Burrow, and we're going to definitely dissect this a little bit more coming up later. For me, though, 44, way too low.
I was surprised by it. I do think it's a little bit tough with only the 8 games played last year, but we've seen more confusing rankings in the top 100 for less productive players so far. So certainly understand where everyone stands on this one. I was just glad he was ranked. I was worried that there was a world where he was left outside the top 100, and that was not an argument I was prepared to have because that would have been absurd. So equally absurd that he came in at 44, but hopefully he'll prove everyone wrong this year, stay healthy, and be right back in that top 5 or top 10 next season.
I hate that we were both having that thought of what if Joe Burrow is not, for some reason, not in the NFL Top 100, especially after seeing where Lamar Jackson landed. Still can't figure that one out.
I think that kind of tells you where the top 100 is at this point, that there was a legitimate concern that Joe Burrow could potentially be left out. Not the best spot, not the most respected rankings, but it's great to see him in there.
Yes, no question about it. We have a couple updates for you on the FC Cincinnati front. They will be back in action Saturday night at TQL Stadium, but Laurel Fowler reporting that midfielder Dado Valenzuela will receive an extra game on his red card suspension. There could be some fines on the way. Hopefully we'll have an update on that either later today or before Saturday.
Big news, obviously a big miss for FC Cincinnati to be without Valenzuela and for an extra game, but good news here as it seems like Evander seemed okay after the injury scare during the All-Star game. So obviously not all good news for FC Cincinnati heading into the weekend, but the big one, having Evander on the field on Saturday, feels like a good miss there for him to not get hurt.
Yeah, definitely would not have wanted to see any type of injury for Evander. He's been so crucial and so important to this FC Cincinnati squad. We will have more of a preview ahead of their match on Saturday coming up later in the show as well. But man, injuries, for whatever reason, just kind of seem to keep piling up here in Cincinnati. The latest one coming from the Bearcats. UC standout Tylan Riley expected to be sidelined for about 4 to 6 weeks because of a hand injury. This is a tough one. One of the Bearcats' best players didn't enjoy seeing this news come across yesterday.
No, really the marquee piece of this transfer portal class for Jared Calhoun, and certainly bad news for this Bearcats basketball team. High expectations this year to hopefully get back to the tournament, get back in some national conversations after the last few years have been out on the outside looking in. Not great news, but also not the worst news. 4 to 6 weeks. Hopefully he can come back and return to form before the end of the season.
We'll have our buddy on, Paul Fritchner, later on in the show. Going to ask him all about this. And speaking of Paul, shared some news with some tip-off times for us regarding the Cincinnati Open that's slated for October 7th. Expected Cincinnati and Ohio State tipping off at 3, Xavier and Dayton at 5:30.
My surprise here was the afternoon slots during the week. I figured if you could play in the afternoon, maybe use it on the weekend. More fans can get down and have some fun. But makes sense to play before the night with the outdoor courts and everything along those lines. So still really excited for this one. Think it'll be a lot of fun. And as you see right there, tickets go on sale today. So keep your eyes out if you want to go up there for those games on October 7th.
Yeah, absolutely looking forward to that one. I don't mind the afternoon. Some afternoon college hoops in action.
Early October?
Yeah,
it's going to
exactly.
be beautiful.
Oh, I cannot wait. That's going to be phenomenal. Something I probably can wait for is it's just the LeBron news on the show. I think we can kind of maybe start teetering, away from that. But reports are coming out that LeBron and ESPN closing in on an agreement for a behind-the-scenes documentary similar to what we saw out of Michael Jordan in The Last Dance.
You were all in on LeBron news before he chose somewhere other than Cleveland. Now we got to bump it down. Funny how that works.
I need some time to heal.
And that's okay.
It's still raw.
Well, at least you'll have a whole year or maybe 2 before this documentary comes out. I'm really excited for this one. LeBron's had camera crews with him for various points of his career. A part of the documentary I'm sure you'll be excited about is that 2016 championship team had a crew with him around then as well. So I think this is going to be unbelievable whenever it does drop. Maverick Carter came out yesterday, LeBron's agent, and said they do not have anything like the Last Dance deal in place right now. LeBron doesn't even know when his last season is. Well, it makes sense LeBron wouldn't announce it. I do not believe there is not a film crew following him around Philadelphia. So this is going to be a lot of fun to see. We're going to see it all play out at some point. I would imagine we don't get any more updates about this until potentially a release date or a trailer in a couple years. I'm almost in the camp that if you film this and have it done, put it on the shelf for like 15 or 20 years. Jordan's came out well after his retirement. Let LeBron kind of get out of the spotlight and then air something like this. I'm really excited for it. Think it'll be a lot of fun, but hopefully don't release it right away.
I need at least a year minimum before I'm ready to watch anything remotely close to a behind-the-scenes doc with LeBron, even if it does have the 2016 championship team in there. What are your thoughts on this one? The Milwaukee Brewers. When I saw you put the word nightmare in show flow, I was like, oh, Jacob has a take.
This is the worst trade deadline notification I saw yesterday, and it wasn't that Hunter Green's potentially on the move. It's that the Brewers are in the hunt for the 2 most desirable pitchers at the deadline. Not just Tariq Skubal from the Tigers, but Mason Miller from the Padres as well. The Brewers making calls on the league's best closer and the league's best starter. We've seen what they're able to do with much worse pitchers at those positions, turning them into some of the league's best. Really scary what they could potentially do with these guys. So as much as we're watching what the Reds do at the trade deadline, I'm also keeping my eyes on the rest of the division, because this isn't just stuff that affects this year. It can ripple for years and years from now on. So hopefully the Brewers can't get Skubal or Mason Miller up to Milwaukee.
Yeah, we don't want that to happen.
No,
that
not
would
at
just
all.
be like actually nightmares. This is what nightmares are made out
Nightmares.
of, especially for 2027. Yeah, we don't need that. Something that dreams are made of, especially for Chris Olave down in the Saints, is a new contract extension. Olave and the Saints agreeing to a 4-year extension worth up to $132 million, $90 million guaranteed. Loved seeing this come through for Olave, and Ohio State players and especially receivers just keep getting paid in the NFL.
Ohio State wide receiver contracts over the last 2 off seasons. 4 years, $169 for Jackson Smith and Jigba. 4 years, $132 for Olave. 4 years, $130 for Garrett Wilson. And 3 years, $97 for Terry McLaurin. Unbelievable what Ohio State's been able to do as a wide receiver factory. And the best is yet to come. Jeremiah Smith will be in the 2027 class, and Chris Henry Jr. a few years after that. Really exciting to see these records just continue to be broken by Ohio State wide receivers.
Yeah, it's awesome. One of my favorite topics. We're going to talk some Ohio State football on the show because why not? James isn't here to veto us, so we're going to have some Buckeye chat along on the way. But another piece we need to update on. This news broke earlier this week, but Luke Kuechly, Cincinnati native, spent so many seasons in Carolina. He is going to be Netflix's #1 game analyst. I'm excited for this. I think Kuechly is going to be phenomenal in the booth.
He had a couple games on ESPN Plus last year where he did an alternate all-22 telecast and was great. He's one of my favorite players of recent memory to hear talk about the game. Just the way he sees it from where he played the linebacker position in Carolina is really, really cool. He was never the fastest or the strongest player, so much of what he was able to do to build his Hall of Fame career was done mentally. And the way he sees the game is really, really cool. I'm excited to have him in the booth, and I think Netflix has done a good job trying to build that crew over the last few years. They're getting some really talented people in there.
Yeah, they definitely are. And speaking of talented people, a guy, at least I know I grew up watching up there in Minnesota with the Vikings for all those years, Adrian Peterson, going to be inducted into the Vikings Ring of Honor November 9th when they play the Buffalo Bills on Monday Night Football. Well-deserved honor for AP.
All day. Yep, this is the best running back I've ever seen. So great to see him get in the Ring of Honor. Adrian Peterson was unbelievable, so really, really cool. And this is the first era of players I grew up watching getting into Ring of Honors and Hall of Fame. So a little bit weird to see notifications like that, but very, very cool and certainly well-deserved.
Yeah, it's only going to continue
I
too.
know.
Well, we are just continuing here on First Word for you on a fired up Friday. A lot more Bengals talk, a lot more Reds talk on the way. Make sure you keep it here with us, with you until 11 o'clock on The Crown.
What is The Crown? It's simple, really. Authentic Cincinnati entertainment. Not hot takes from a studio 3 states away. Not national noise pretending to know this city. Rather, bringing a voice to those who call the Queen City home. Where can I watch The Crown shows? Join us live from 7 to 11 a.m. for First Word and 12 to 1 for the Working Lunch on RESN. No live TV? No problem. Stream and interact with all of our content on major podcast, broadcast, and streaming platforms. The Crown is Cincinnati. Loud, passionate, competitive, proud. From early morning sports debates to the business leaders shaping the riverfront, to the fans, stories, moments, and culture that make this place move. Live shows, podcasts, documentaries, digital content built from Cincinnati, for Cincinnati. This is The Crown.
Drafted Chris Jenkins. I thought it was a really high floor. Like, maybe he's not an all-pro, but his floor is going to be really, really high. He's going to become B.J. Hill, or he's going to become a really solid defensive tackle that's good against the run, that can play 3 downs. And maybe he gets there. But yeah, he is not a lock entering training camp to make this roster. I will say this, though, because I thought on draft night, after the draft wrapped up in the 7th round, they got Landon Robinson as well, and I was texting with someone in the building, and I was like, man, Chris Jenkins Jr. is going to have to really earn his spot. And I mentioned Landon, and the person I was texting with was like, look, we still love Chris now. And so I think both can be true. It's going to be hard for him. He's going to have to earn it. At the same time, everything I've said about Jonathan Allen and B.J. Hill thriving because they're no longer going to be double-teamed ever because of Dexter Lawrence, well, Chris Jenkins Jr. could benefit from that as well. Entering year 3 certainly needs to make a major leap. We'll see if he does. It's his second year working with defensive line coach Jerry Montgomery. So before we even get into the trade part of it, I think that there's a realistic chance that he does make a leap, that he does take that step, that he becomes the guy. Because year 3, B.J. Hill in year 3 was still learning it too. And if that's the comp, like maybe this is the perfect room for him to learn and take the step forward. And the nice thing about this Bengals defense is outside of linebacker, there's not many positions where they're like, hey, we need this young guy to be awesome right away. And in past years, that was the case. If Chris Jenkins takes a step, great. But that isn't necessarily a need because of everything you've done. You've insulated yourself there. But I do think it is realistic, and you have to take this into consideration if you're going to field trade offers for him, is that Chris Jenkins does take a step forward and does become a serviceable or better NFL player. I don't think he's just going to fall off the map here. I think he's going to end up being a solid player. And if he's going to do that, if he's on that path, you have to take that into consideration before you trade him.
This city deserves its crown. Watch, listen, subscribe.
The Reds took game 1 of the series against the Pirates over at Great American Ballpark, and boy, oh boy, was that a thrilling end to that game. Elly De La Cruz getting it going in the 9th inning with a double. Sal Stewart being intentionally walked, which I absolutely love that he is a rookie at this point, and teams are just now intentionally walking him because they don't want him to drive in a run in the bottom of the 9th inning because he has that clutch gene.
But he does that a lot.
He does.
He drives in a lot of runs.
Yeah, it's really fun to see. But then the speedster that I didn't know existed on this Reds team, Nathaniel Lowe with the infield fielder's choice. And the ball was placed in a position where the only play really was to go for the double play because you had Elly on third. But man, did he show off his wheels.
There's not many places the ball could have been hit to give you a play at the plate with Elly De La Cruz on third. It's one of the great things about having Elly on this team. And when he's hitting doubles like he was last night, he's already in scoring position and can score on almost anything from second. He's unbelievable. Got to third, came around with the infield hit there. Nathaniel Lowe just busting it down the first baseline. Unbelievable to see him beat that out. Not a guy who's known for his speed, but broke his sprint speed record last night. 27 feet per second is average on the season, a full foot per second lower than that at 25.6. So really cool to see. And this team really wanted to win, and you saw it towards the end of the game last night.
You did. Nathaniel Lowe was moving down that first baseline and afterwards moved over to have a conversation with Jim Day after the walk-off win.
Don, thank you very much. Respect the speed, right?
Oh, Tito says speed never takes a day off. I don't know what that means, but we won.
Take us through that situation. Obviously, it's bases loaded. The game is on the line. But you got a tough lefty. It's a lefty-lefty matchup. Do you change your approach at all there?
You just got to get something you can handle, and he still kind of beat me there. I just smushed it in the ground, but I got a chance to get a ball in play. But the guys in front of me put together great at-bats to let me capitalize.
Elly was one of the guys that got you. Was this kind of a
hammered that ball, huh?
Was this kind of an Elly type of game tonight?
Yeah, that was nice. It was a complete offensive performance by him. He took a walk, right? Maybe two, couple doubles, hustle double, and
couple steals.
Yeah, and then was that 3 doubles for him?
Yeah.
Yeah, what a game.
Yeah. You yourself, of late, has there been a difference for you because you started, the roller coaster of this game?
That's the roller coaster. That's the ebbs and flows of 162. You just got to keep going.
Well, congratulations on the knock, and go dry off.
All right, thanks.
I always love a good Gatorade bat there, but here's Elly De La Cruz getting it going with one of the 3 doubles he had on the night. Matt McClain back in the lineup, scoring the first run of the game on his display.
It's nice to see Ellie bring Matt home with an RBI double. Saw that a lot in 2023 when Ellie was hitting third and McLean was hitting second. A little bit different with McLean hitting ninth and Ellie hitting first, but still great to see for two guys that were expected to be part of this core. Then you see Ellie opening it up again, and that was one of the biggest takeaways really from the last few games, but especially last night. Not only is Sal Stewart still driving in every run possible, but Ellie's moving like he used to. And then here's Nate Lowe moving like Ellie used to as well down the first baseline to beat that out. Just an unbelievable play by a team that seemingly stole the win that they gave away through the first few innings. So great to see them scratch and claw to get that one done last night. And the only way the 12 runners left on base isn't the most upsetting thing in the world this morning is when you have one more run than the other team. So great to see that, and great to see Emilio Pagan being as good as he's been through the last few starts. Ellie, unbelievable last night, and Louder with a great start as well. There's the standings, not much prettier, but great win last night for this Reds team.
Yeah, I'm glad we don't have to talk about the 12 left on base today like I was fearing we were going to have to, but we showed that highlight of Sal Stewart. 80 RBIs now. It's just the pace and stuff that he's done this season is it's just been phenomenal to watch.
I don't know how you can look at these numbers and think the WAR discrepancy in the National League Rookie of the Year race makes any sense. And I hate to circle back to this point every time we talk about Sal, but if he's going to break records on a nightly basis, I'm going to bring it up every time he breaks a record. It's unbelievable the comparisons of his rookie year to other rookie years with similar numbers, and he's doing it on a much worse team than a lot of those guys. It's crazy what he's been able to do this year, and there's no rookie that's really close to him right now in the league, in my opinion, especially in the National League. If there is one close, it's McGonigal in Detroit, and they have really similar numbers, and he's as big of a favorite to win Rookie of the Year as anyone in the last 5 years in the American League. So I don't understand the difference. Hopefully Sal just gets enough RBIs and home runs that they can't ignore him.
Absolutely. Well, Rhett Louder didn't get credited with the win last night, but 6 innings, 2 runs given up, did have the 5 strikeouts. He's been really solid in back-to-back outings now. But now it's time for us to listen in to Reds manager Terry Francona following last night's win.
Well, I mean, right-handed, those were 3 really good swings. Nice and short to the ball. The ball came on, and he, like good base runners, like he smells it coming out of the box. He always gives himself a chance. And then with his speed and his strides, he's in position where he can take advantage of that. I think with the home run to Lau was a lead curveball that he hit for the home run, but he gave us 6. Got to, I think, 90, 91 maybe. So he's incrementally, he's working his way up, and I thought he looked good. And there was some bending today. We didn't break. We walked some guys we probably shouldn't have, but they didn't score. And that's what ultimately matters. If we can not overuse these guys, they have a much better chance to be productive, and that's something that I obviously grind on a lot.
Well, a big reason for the Reds' success last night was Elly De La Cruz getting on base 3 times and taking advantage of it with 2 steals in that game. And with that, became the first Red in franchise history with 20 or more stolen bases in each of his first 4 career seasons. And he wasn't done there either, also becoming the first Red since 1900 with 3 extra base hits and 2 stolen bases in a single game.
Ellie's at his best when you take him off the leash. Just let him run, let him do his thing. He can do things that no other player in the league can do. Really, really cool to see him take advantage of that last night, especially after a rough game on Wednesday. To bounce back with one of the best games he's played all year, maybe all career last night, really, really cool to see after a struggle the night before. It just shows you exactly who he is as a player. We talk a lot about Sal and the mentality he's had so far this year and how great that's been to see from a young player. I feel like Elly gets moved out of that young player group at some points because of how productive he's been early in his career. He's still learning. He's still young as well. And it's bounce back moments like that that make me so happy he's a Red.
Yeah, and one of my favorite parts about last night, too, is that they would show Elly kind of a close-up up on the video boards, and whether it was after the stolen bases or a couple of the doubles there, just the biggest smile and grin on his face. He's truly just having fun. And that's the part that I love most, is he's just having fun, having a great time out there. And I truly think that when you're enjoying something like that, it leads to better play.
For sure. And these 4 pillars that we talk about all the time about this Reds team, Hunter Green, Chase Burns, Elly De La Cruz, and Sal Stewart, those are guys that live and breathe baseball. I don't know if you can want better players in those roles. The production's great, and obviously that's important, but there's nobody more committed on this roster than the 4 best players are, and that's really great to see as this team tries to build and move forward.
More Reds talk on the way later this morning, but up next, time for us to check in on the results of our What's the Word poll question of the day. Challenges has just taken MLB by storm this year, and Bleacher Report put out a pretty neat video of the umpire vantage point on these challenges, and we're going to see if Jacob and Paul can go 3 for 3 on these ABS challenges. So we're going to take it full screen, and we're going to get things going here in 3, 2, 1. Pay attention. What do we call him?
Strike.
I'm going ball.
I'm going strike.
That looked down.
Oh, give it to me. That was a strike. Oh, wait.
was
they're
down.
challenging it. I see.
And it's a ball.
Oh, low.
Call me Sal Stewart out here.
Oh.
Jacob 1-0.
What an eye.
Get ready for play number 2 here.
Man, these are harder than I thought they were.
You're right?
Wasn't even that close.
What do we think?
Oh,
Ball or
that's
strike?
a strike.
All right, I'm going to go ball again.
Over the outer, barely got the outside
I
corner.
think it was a
Batter
strike too, but I'm going to guess
challenging
ball.
and-
Oh my God.
That's about as close as it gets.
Come on.
Oh. So this last one has to be a strike.
All right, this is important because this is taking it up a notch for how much I believe in these guys at the
So
plate.
Jacob's 2-0 right now.
Yeah, this is going to be a strike.
Has to be.
They're
You
not
can't do
going to give
3
me
pitchers
3
and do
balls.
3
What are we calling?
balls.
What are we calling?
This is a strike.
It has to be.
Let's find out. Is Jacob going to be a perfect 3 for 3?
There it is.
He is.
Wow, good for you.
Flawless execution. Honestly, not surprised.
There we go.
Not
That
surprised.
is
Jacob did that well.
Significantly harder than I thought it would be.
My name is Jack Crumley. I've been covering news in Cincinnati on the radio for the last 20 years. I grew up in Northeast Ohio, but Cincinnati has always felt like home since day one. I've seen so many things accomplished here, and now, with the Working Lunch, I get to write, read, and talk about them every day. Hard-working people with a drive and a dream. Innovative ideas that help shape this city. Cincinnati is a great city, and I'm excited to tell you about it every day.
This city deserves its crown. Watch, listen, subscribe.
Coming up at 8 o'clock, we will talk more about these scuffles we've seen out at Bengals training camp. But before then, the NFL Top 100 revealed their latest slew of player rankings and had a Bengal on that list. Coming in at number 44, QB1. I was stunned when I saw this. I expected Burrow to drop from the number 6 that he was in 2025. I didn't think the drop was going to be that significant.
Yeah, it seems like health cost him about 40 spots. I don't think anyone imagines Joe Burrow would be drafted outside the top 40 in a full league redraft. But that was our poll question of the day last night. How did you feel when you saw Joe Burrow come in at 44th on the top 100? And for the most part, almost everybody with you, Marisa, 77% saying that's way too low. 17.1% with me, that it seems about right, and it seems like the control room's there as well. With how much they drop people for injuries this year, it feels like a lucky thing that Joe Burrow comes in even this high.
Who's voting in the too high category?
I don't
Nearly
know.
6% of viewers. Maybe we have some Ravens and Steelers fans in the chat,
That's
which
what I'm
thank you guys
thinking.
for watching. We appreciate the views, but I'm not quite sure I agree on that one.
No, that 6% doesn't make too much sense. Maybe there's a lot of people who think the injuries should be held against him a little bit more, but I don't know what more could be held against Joe Burrow than putting him as the 44th best player in the NFL. So, yeah, certainly think it's too low in the grand scheme of things, but understand why it kind of came to fruition. Don't know how people think it could be too high.
Yeah, we will talk much more about this coming up later in the show, too. But up next, time for us to head back over to the practice fields at Paycor Stadium. We need to figure out and discuss the scuffle that happened on day 1 of camp.
The city lives and breathes sports, and now it finally has a morning show to match. I'm James Rapien, and this is First Word, the only morning sports show in Cincinnati and the place where every day starts. First Word, weekdays 7 to 11, part of the Crown Network.
I was out of town, and I mentioned the name earlier, Jim Breach. We play a lot of golf together. We text each other a lot, and he texts me, he goes, "What about the trade?" And I'm like, "What trade?" He goes, "Dexter Lawrence." I said, "Oh my goodness." And he goes, "I think the Bengals really want to win now." And we're just messing around saying that. But yeah, I mean, to me, I tell people I was so excited before the draft. I mean, not only with that trade and the signing of, I mean, you know, it might be 30-31 Jonathan Allen, but he still has a lot of gas in the tank, and he's proven over the years. Mafe, another young guy. And then you get Cook, as you mentioned, and then you get a couple other safeties that have some great experience. I'm thinking, and I've said, in my humble opinion, this year, if Joe stays healthy, the offensive line comes together, all we need is a middle-of-the-road defense, and we're back at so high. I think we went from middle of the road to like top 10 defense with those. You know, again, we got to play as a team now and come together. But I think what they did in free agency, in that trade, and in the draft, I'm excited.
I know we're with you on that front. The expectations for this defense are huge. Obviously, you played tackle, but faced plenty of great defensive linemen in your era. What's the difference between having an elite pass rusher on the inside versus on the edge that makes Dexter Lawrence such an anomaly?
Well, I mean, you don't have to go as far to get the quarterback. I mean, you get that push, and you're right there. I mean, if they're coming around the end, the quarterback can maneuver. I mean, you got 6'7", 385 pounds. I mean, it's blocking off half the field that you can see. So, no, it's huge. It's huge. And not to mention that he's going to occupy two guys. You know, so what happens is all of a sudden you have two guys with him, and, you know, if you're defensive ends, then you're singled up, and you say, okay, guys, now you're singled up. Now you have to have an impact, and you got to do, because you got Dexter Lawrence taking two guys, and it gives you an opportunity to go one-on-one, and you got to beat those guys. So I tell you what, that you look at the depth chart, and you got three new guys, you know, inserted in that defensive line, and not just three guys, but three pretty good guys.
Every morning, Cincinnati wakes up and gets to work. Companies are built, deals are made, restaurants open, ideas become careers, and every day the people behind it all sit down at the working lunch. Founders, CEOs, entrepreneurs, community leaders, the people building Cincinnati. The Working Lunch with Jack Crumley, weekdays, noon to 1, only on The Crown.
on the radio here in Cincinnati.
Cincinnati has always felt like home.
Right here on the Crown Network.
Out and about in Cincinnati, bringing you these stories that you need to hear in the Queen City. It's a fired up Friday here on The Crown. We are with you all the way until 11 o'clock this morning. Welcome back in to First Word alongside Jacob Tissot. I'm Marisa Contipelli, and time for us to talk a little more Bengals training camp. And day one was kind of explosive right off of the bat. It was exciting to see the players on the field. I think they were pumped up, fired up to be out there too, and didn't have just one scuffle on the day. We had multiple scuffles.
No, and honestly, I didn't think this was going to be as big of a story as it was. I knew we'd talk about it here, obviously, because it's Bengals training camp and it was the biggest story of the day. But this led multiple shows on a national basis yesterday. I saw significant segments across the various ESPN shows yesterday talking about this, and really head-scratching to me that it's such a big story. It's a scuffle in training camp that lasted a minute and a half, and then they went through the rest of practice.
Either people are really eager and excited to see what's going on with the Bengals this year, or maybe it's just been a little boring and not as many headlines coming out from the other 31 teams. Right. Not entirely sure, but it did catch the attention and eye of former Bengals legend TJ Houshmandzadeh, who had some pretty strong opinions on the scuffle, especially involving Ja'Marr Chase.
I met with him after practice, or I'm meeting with him first thing in the morning, and I'm going to say, hey, we need you. This training camp, emotions are going to run high, but I need you to keep your composure. Mm-hmm. We can't win games without you. Yeah. So if this happens in a game, we lose you for the game, we probably lose that game. So I need you to keep your composure for the team more than anything else. And so, but you got to, and again, I don't really know Jamar's personality. I know him, but I don't know him like that. Can I get on him in front of a team? And if I can, I am. Mm-hmm. But I'm also a realist. I've been in that locker room where you get on the wrong player. Yeah. He gonna really let everybody know
who running things around here.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's.
In a sense, I get what Hoosh is saying. We've seen emotions get the best of Ja'Marr in the past. The one with Jalen Ramsey certainly sticks out, and obviously, who can forget the infamous picture of Lamar holding up the birds? But also, it's day one of camp. You have guys fighting and competing for jobs. I don't think there's anything wrong with having a little bit of extra competitiveness out there, as long as you don't let it escalate beyond those few minutes on the field.
We heard from Ja'Marr Chase earlier in the show, and he talked about trying to grow his leadership in practice. And I think a lot of people would look at something like this and say, well, that's not leadership. That's moving in the other direction. I wouldn't be so sure. I would almost say that it is. I'm talking about changing the vibes of practice. That's the point everyone here in Cincinnati took away from these scuffles. Not the same nationally, but here in Cincinnati, it was a lot of excitement about a new edge for the defense. A defense trying to prove people wrong and change the flow of the last 3 years. That seems like what Ja'Marr Chase was doing, and we didn't see nearly as much in day two. It's felt like a little bit of setting the tone in day one, and I have no problem with it. Really, nothing has changed from yesterday to today, in my opinion, as more and more people have talked about this. And I was quite frankly a little bit surprised to see how many people were so strongly on the opposite side. I get what Hoosh is saying. Obviously, when Ja'Marr was suspended after the Jalen Ramsey incident last year, it unraveled the Bengals for a whole game. He's a key piece of this offense. There's no way around that, and no one would argue it. But I also think part of what makes him so great is that edge that he has, that little bit of flair that's a part of Ja'Marr Chase's game. Is it something you're going to have to worry about every now and then if a DB is talking a lot of crap throughout a game? Maybe, but that's also why he's going to go get you 250 on 10 catches and 2 touchdowns against the Chiefs in a must-win game late in the season. So I think it's part of the package with a player like Ja'Marr, and I think it's really overall a good thing when you look at someone wanting it this bad.
I agree. The Bengals have missed the playoffs each of the last 3 seasons. Something needed to change. There needed to be some kind of difference in a tone or an edge, especially on the defensive side. And yeah, I don't think this is something that is going to brew into the locker room. They seemed like they kind of took care of it on the field there. But let's hear from Jamar and just get his take on the scuffle and what happened on day 1.
It's been pretty good so far. A lot of competitiveness going on and just getting each other better.
What did you make of the little scuffle yesterday?
Nothing for real. It's really football at the end of the day. It happens. We got to bounce back. It's competitiveness. Everybody just getting each other better at the end of the day. Just got to do a better job of just getting back to practice, not getting distracted.
You like seeing that from the DBs though, when they got that issue?
That's what I want. Exactly what I want.
Any interaction with Jalen about that after practice?
Yeah, we talked. I ain't never seen JD like that. I'm not gonna lie. So it's a little new to me, but I like it. I like it.
Do you like it?
I do like it. Hell yeah, I love it. I play with a lot of feistiness under me. You know what I'm saying? I think me just bringing it to practice, doing it with the guys at practice, I think that's going to help those guys get better because you never know who does that in the game with them. And, you know, it might help them guys practice a little harder. You know what I'm saying? It might help me practice a little harder. You never know what it does.
Were you trying to set a tone for a first day tone?
Pretty much so, yeah.
Because it looked like it wasn't there wasn't any of that today. It didn't look like.
I mean, I don't think you've seen, but who knows? I can't tell you what happened today. Something for sure happened today, though. It just wasn't me.
But you wanted to set a tone.
We set a tone every day.
Why?
We just got to come out and be aggressive. We got to come out. That was the biggest thing every year, coming out and starting off fast. You know what I'm saying? So that's got to be our emphasis this year, coming out with some anger underneath us.
Like Jamar just said, they're cool. They're good. They didn't let it carry over and bleed into day 2. And love hearing him say that about Jalen Davis, too. And we're going to hear from JD coming up in just a bit. But you need that edge, that difference on the defensive side. And I'm glad that Jamar and the offensive players recognize that as well.
I don't think there's a much harder job in the league than being a Bengals defensive back in practice. I mean, we talk about it every Sunday, how hard that job's going to be for the opposition. But Monday through Friday, it's Jalen Davis, DJ Turner, Dax Hill that are having to guard Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. That is a tough job. And I'm really glad that Jamar's putting a little bit of pressure on him, talking to him when he gets a play done, because that's going to be what continues to help those guys grow. And we've talked a lot about DJ and Dax this offseason and also the slot corner competition, but in Jalen Davis's case specifically, this is a guy who's been in the league for a long time and now finally has a chance to earn that starting job. I'm glad he's taking it this seriously. Not that it would ever be a joke or 1 foot in, 1 foot out, but this shows that on day 1, it's the only thing he's thinking about is how do I earn that job as the slot corner of this football team, and he's willing to do anything to get it. And that makes me really, really confident in one of the question mark positions going into training camp.
Yeah, I know. I've talked a lot about Jalen Davis on the show here and just how he can grasp that starting nickel position and just be a consistent factor for this Bengals team. And I've known Jalen for a long time, and so I've never ever questioned his passion or his work ethic. But seeing him come out with a different type of fire on day 1, get me started. Let's go. And let's hear from Jalen Davis now after that scuffle on day 1 of camp.
We're just competing. Always feel like the energy got to be like that. It got to be like that on both sides of the field. Sure, I hope it's the fight every day. Like I said, to get the energy going. Like I said, we're just competing, and that's it.
Well, it felt a little chickier than normal there, day 1. Y'all usually ain't getting after that early. Why this time?
Like I said, we're just competing. It's a different level, different mindset this year, all around. So that's what we're doing for.
What mindset are you looking at? Just
that right there.
Yeah.
I mean, do you like when there's a little bit of fire on the defense?
No, for sure. Like I said, practice is supposed to be harder and more intense than a game, so that's what we're trying to implement.
For you, what's the biggest obstacle in making sure intensity day 1 is still going strong, that level at day 20?
Like I said, just keeping it up. Putting on everybody's mind, like, hey, this is how it is, this is how it got to be on both sides of the ball there. Both sides of the ball, keep that intensity, keep the competing going.
Did you come out today wanting to kind of set that tone and say, hey, listen, we know how last year looked. We want to come out and say, it's a little bit different. Is that what you want to do?
We just want to come out and just have a different mentality, and then that's what came out.
Was there anything said, afterwards with you and Jamar specifically, after you guys wrapped up that whole scuffle?
Yeah, we love each other. We just competing. That's it.
We're spirited out there today.
Yeah.
Like it like that? Is that a good way to break into camp?
No, for sure. For sure.
So, can you share what was going on? Was it just
Just competing, nothing else to it. There's really nothing else to it.
So this all stemmed from a play where Jalen was going to make, going after the ball on a Mike Gesicki catch, ended up kind of tackling Mike to the ground, not something you're supposed to do on day one, but as you could kind of just tell in Jalen's voice there, he's fired up. There is that intensity. Jalen, though, I don't need a fight every day of practice. Bring that intensity and that edge, but don't need to kind of have it escalate to that level.
Certainly with you there, but I love that the defense is also focused on setting a tone. You could see it coming from the offense in a way. They've done their job for the majority of the last 3 seasons, and it's been the defense that has kept the Bengals at home in late January and February. Now the defense coming out this year and showing that it's not the same group, showing that they can set the tone as well. And I think the biggest thing for me when you hear what Hushmanzada said at the beginning here and other national shows throughout the day yesterday, pointing to the negatives of training camp fights, all of those hypothetical negatives are exactly what Jamar Chase, Jalen Davis, and DJ Turner just said aren't happening. It's not derailing practice. It's not carrying into the locker room. It's not legitimate disagreements between 2 players. It's competition on a practice field between players who are going to have to be the catalyst of this Bengals team to win anything meaningful this season. It's DJ Turner, Jalen Davis is going to have to play a huge role, and we all know what Jamar Chase is going to have to do this year if the Bengals are going to hold the Lombardi in February. So I love this in day 1. Hopefully we can dial it back in day 2 and then a little bit more in day 3, and maybe when pads get in on Monday, just practice and not worry about a lot of this stuff. But I love that it sets the tone early in camp. I think it's a great thing, and really nothing's going to change my mind on that from now on.
I don't know, when they're in pads, let amp it up again. There's a different feel and tone when the pads come on.
That's when I get a little bit
and
more
we start
concerned
hitting a little
about
bit
the
more.
injuries.
Well, yeah, as long as it doesn't get to that point. But yeah, today, day 3 of camp, I don't think we can keep on the descent there. We don't need to kind of elevate it to that level of day 1. But no, to just having that different type of tone and edge on the defense
Feels different already.
It does. It's nice to see. And the fact that the players aren't letting it bleed in day over day is a testament to just that leadership, though, that's in that locker room that we've talked about, and especially on the defensive side, something that this team was kind of missing the last few seasons.
For sure, and I think the really encouraging thing is that it's not just new guys.
Mm-hmm.
It's guys that have been here that are stepping up and seizing those roles. DJ Turner, a little bit later in his media availability after talking about the scuffle, talked about how much it would mean to him to be a captain this year. This is a guy who wasn't starting at this point in last year's training camp. So the ability for him to not just grow on the field, but the focus on growing off of it, I think shows the commitment of this locker room to doing whatever it takes to win this year.
Yeah, absolutely love seeing that growth out of DJ Turner. And we have a lot more to come Bengals-wise on the show this morning. But up next, time to get you caught up on everything while you slept. I'm keeping my eye on is actually the oldest in the secondary room. We've talked so much about DJ Turner and Dax Hill having locked down those, outside corner positions. But what about slot corner? Who's really going to take hold in that nickel? I'm looking at Jalen Davis. He's been around for a long time, came into the league in 2018, has been with the Bengals since 2020, and has spent time between the 53-man roster and the practice squad. But last season, towards the back half of the year, Jalen Davis called up from the practice squad and really, fit in nicely into that cornerback's room. And we saw him out on the field, recorded his first career interception in Miami. And I was on the field for that play, and it's just the amount of respect and love he got from his teammates after that moment. Everyone knew just how massive of a moment that was for him to get his first career interception after spending 8 seasons in the league. He means so much to this team. He's a leader, but a quiet leader. He's not overly vocal. He leads by example a lot of the time. And you just look at some of his numbers last season, allowed a 74 passer rating when targeted, only allowed 13 receptions in coverage. Again, only played, in the back half of the season, weeks 12 through 18, but had 16 solo tackles in run support, and can be a guy that I'm really looking to see. Can he solidify that starting nickel spot and really complement what DJ Turner and Dax Hill are doing?
You should be thinking about what you should be thinking about. I don't know what I'm thinking about. Is slot corner. That to me is the big question. Is it Jalen Davis? Is it Takario Davis? I don't know. I don't know where this is going to go, and I do think it's important. Maybe it's Kyle Duggar.
Taylor.
Jasir Taylor, absolutely. I mean, there's a lot of different ways it could go, and that's kind of one of the reasons it's the number one thing for me, because I just don't know where they're going to go with this. I don't think they're in a bad spot because they don't have an answer there. I just think it's going to be really interesting to see how it plays out.
Now, Dax Hill said he wants to stay outside, but we've seen him have success in the slot before. Is there any chance that we see him in the slot this season?
Yeah, there is. I think that's really interesting because he has done everything the Bengals have asked. They move him around. He doesn't say a word. He's going into a contract year, and outside corners get paid a lot more than slot corners. So that'll be interesting to see too if that's something that he balks at. If we see a little pushback from him when it comes to that, I don't think that'll be the case. And who knows? Maybe they surprise us and they sign him to a long-term deal before they even get to the season. But I think things would have to go bad with those others for them to kind of push Dax back inside.
On the radio here in Cincinnati.
Cincinnati has always felt like home.
Right here on the Crown Network.
Out and about in Cincinnati, bringing you the stories that you need to hear in the Queen City. It's a fired up Friday here on First Word, and I'm still fired up because the Reds took game one against the Pirates over at Great American Ballpark last night. Alongside Jacob Tissot, I'm Marisa Contipelli, and I was at the ballpark, and it was one of those games where I wasn't sure how it was going to end because it was just a weird kind of tone and feel to it. Overall, obviously, Rhett Lauder did what he needed to do, but offensive-wise, that ninth inning, and Ellie setting the table, setting the tone, getting on with that leadoff double. But the hero of the night, the unlikely speedster, Nathaniel Lowe, coming up clutch.
It was awesome, and I felt like I was pretty sure how that game was going to end. I felt like we've seen this play out a lot for this Reds team so far this year, but it was great to see them hold on, and not just hold on, but get a run when they needed it most in the bottom of the ninth. This is something that this team hasn't done a great job of this year, but one thing Ellie De La Cruz always seems to do is follow up rough games with great games. His best seemed to come right after his worst. He bounces back better than anyone in the league, and after a rough one earlier this week, he had potentially one of the best games in a Reds uniform last night. 2 doubles, a run scored right there, and 2 stolen bases as well. Just an unbelievable game for Ellie. Scored the game-winning run, and here you see the speedster, Nate Lowe, legs it out for the win. Lowe was moving on that one. On that fielder's choice, he reached 27 feet per second on that sprint to first base. His season average, 25.6. So fastest sprint speed of the season for Nate Lowe. Got it done for the Reds. You see the 12 left on base. Doesn't hurt quite as bad when you get the win, but still not what you want to see from this Reds offense. Rhett Lauder looked great yet again. Second straight start where he looks like he's returned to form. Still that ugly 16 back in the National League Central, but 5.5 in the wild card. Who knows what can happen there?
Exactly. That number 5 is the one I always go back to. But with Ellie, don't cut him short there. He had 3 doubles on the night, not just.
Did I say 2?
Yeah,
oh,
he had the 3 doubles. He had 3 doubles. Yeah, we have a great stat for you coming up later in the show about just what Ellie did last night in a Reds uniform. But for me too, it started with Rhett Lauder and wanting to make sure that he went out there. Similar type performance that he did a week ago against the Cardinals. And that's what was big for me because he went into that Cardinals series set the tone, made sure the Reds were in a position to take game one. They did, went on to win that series, and we saw a very similar thing from him last night, and really looked good for the most part. Obviously gave up the home run, but up to that point, really just that sac fly was the only kind of trouble he had gotten into.
Yeah, it's going to happen. Runs are going to happen. If Rhett Lauder's going to go out there and give you 6 innings of 2-run ball, I'm going to be really, really excited about it. I think this is, we talked about it yesterday going into the game, one of the biggest things for this Reds team moving through the rest of this year is figuring out where Rhett Lauder can slot in this rotation. We've seen times where he looks like he's as good as any arm the Reds have, and we've seen times where maybe a move to the bullpen is the way to go. So hopefully it's more of these last 2 as the season progresses. He was great last night, and the most important thing to me, 2 walks over the last 2 starts. 11 innings, 4 runs, 2 walks over his last 2 starts. Great to see from a guy who really struggled with command earlier this year. That's what unraveled his starts before he went to the injured list. And it's great to see that now he's back in that rotation after spending some time in the bullpen. He seems to have that stuff dialed back in.
He does. Yeah, it was phenomenal to see. And yeah, really good start for the Reds. This 4-game set against the Pirates continues with game 2. We will have a preview coming up later in the show and plenty more to kind of dissect and digest from last night's game coming up here on the show as well. But the Reds did announce a few moves before first pitch yesterday. We saw Matt McLain rejoin this Reds team and was back in the lineup, activated off the 10-day injured list. They did option down a couple of guys, though, including Chase Petty and Edwin Arroyo. Surprise, kind of is maybe what you were expecting. We knew he had some of those, recent defensive struggles there at second and at the plate, a little inconsistent.
He's been a fine back of the order bat, certainly nothing great, but he needed to be an elite defender to make it work in the majors, especially with what Matt McLain provides at second base. There's not a big enough discrepancy between the 2 bats for the discrepancy we've seen so far defensively. McLain was, even when he's struggling at the plate, really, really good at second base. So getting him back up here, relying on that, and that's kind of what Terry Francona said. It's not as much about the offense. We need the consistency in the middle infield. So Matt McLain back with the team, started last night, got an RBI, so hopefully headed in the right direction. As much as we talked about, it would be great to see Edwin Arroyo take a few steps through the back half of this year. It would be just as big to see Matt McLain show some flashes of that 2023 form. So whoever's going to play second base for the Reds, hopefully it's one of those 2 guys, and hopefully they have success. So I'm going to be really excited to see either one of them through the stretch of this year. I think there is a little bit more to gain from Arroyo in AAA than McLain in AAA, so I think that makes a lot of sense to let him work on his defense there, and then we'll see McLain and Ellie in the middle infield for the rest of this year, if I had to guess.
Yeah, McLain got things going for the Reds in the 3rd, got on base, and then ended up scoring when Ellie De La Cruz drove him in. So nice to see McLain making an impact on this team. The Bengals, well, they avoided a pretty big scare that happened on day 1 of camp when Shamar Stewart went down with a lower leg injury, was carted off the field. Everyone concerned to the massive amount here in Cincinnati. But we got good news on that front yesterday. Reports coming out, and Zach Taylor speaking with media, that looking like avoiding anything major with Shamar Stewart, just a hyperextended knee that he will have treatment on. Belief is that there is no ligament damage and he should be good to go.
Unbelievable win for the Bengals to have this news break yesterday. I was shocked to hear it. I thought the best case scenario was even worse than this one. So great news for the Bengals that Shamar likely won't be missing too much time. Don't know if he'll be back ready by week 1, but hopefully not on the PUP list or anything like that, keeping him out for the first 4 weeks of the season. We'll see what happens throughout camp, how he responds to some of this treatment, but no ligament damage feels like as good a news as we could possibly have hoped for yesterday.
Absolutely. I'm hoping that it's only maybe a couple weeks here and we can see him by the end of August, so he has an opportunity to maybe get in for that final preseason game.
That would be the hope. Obviously, he's going to miss most, if not all, of training camp now, and a guy who really could have used a lot of those reps. But still, regardless, 2 days ago, we were talking about potentially being without Shamar Stewart for the whole season. Now, at least we'll have him for some of it, probably most of it. So great news for Shamar, a guy who showed flashes before getting hurt last year. Looked really good in that Browns game in the opener. couldn't stay on the field throughout the rest of the year. So hopefully this is now the last bump in the road, can put it behind him, stay on the field, and take some steps in this new look Bengals defense.
Yeah, hopefully we will see Joe Burrow stay on the field for the entirety of the 2026 season. As the NFL Top 100 continues their rankings, Joe Burrow came in number 44 on their list for this season.
Burrow and Tom Brady.
Let's go! Let's go, guys! Come on!
You could compare the two. Like, they're in the pocket, smart kind of quarterbacks. Pick up reads and, like, blitzes easily.
Slant. Nice. Touchdown!
To me, he's a tremendous player. I love the way that he leads this team.
Yeah, I kind of think they play similar.
Good job. Keep it up.
I always love the comparisons to Tom Brady when it comes to Joe Burrow, and we're going to definitely dissect this a little bit more coming up later. For me, though, 44, way too low.
I was surprised by it. I do think it's a little bit tough with only the 8 games played last year, but we've seen more confusing rankings in the top 100 for less productive players so far. So certainly understand where everyone stands on this one. I was just glad he was ranked. I was worried that there was a world where he was left outside the top 100, and that was not an argument I was prepared to have because that would have been absurd. So equally absurd that he came in at 44, but hopefully he'll prove everyone wrong this year, stay healthy, and be right back in that top 5 or top 10 next season.
I hate that we were both having that thought of what if Joe Burrow is not, for some reason, not in the NFL Top 100, especially after seeing where Lamar Jackson landed. Still can't figure that one out.
I think that kind of tells you where the top 100 is at this point, that there was a legitimate concern that Joe Burrow could potentially be left out. Not the best spot, not the most respected rankings, but it was great to see him in there.
Yes, no question about it. We have a couple updates for you on the FC Cincinnati front. They will be back in action Saturday night at TQL Stadium, but Laurel Fowler reporting that midfielder Dado Valenzuela will receive an extra game on his red card suspension. There could be some fines on the way. Hopefully we'll have an update on that either later today or before Saturday.
Big news, obviously a big miss for FC Cincinnati to be without Valenzuela for an extra game, but good news here as it seems like Evander seemed okay after the injury scare during the All-Star game. So obviously not all good news for FC Cincinnati heading into the weekend, but the big one, having Evander on the field on Saturday, feels like a good miss there for him to not get hurt.
Yeah, definitely would not have wanted to see any type of injury for Evander. He's been so crucial and so important to this FC Cincinnati squad. We will have more of a preview ahead of their match on Saturday coming up later in the show as well, but man, injuries, for whatever reason, just kind of seem to keep piling up here in Cincinnati. The latest one coming from the Bearcats. UC standout Tylan Riley expected to be sidelined for about 4 to 6 weeks because of a hand injury. This is a tough one. One of the Bearcats' best players didn't enjoy seeing this news come across yesterday.
No, really the marquee piece of this transfer portal class for Jared Calhoun, and certainly bad news for this Bearcats basketball team. High expectations this year to hopefully get back to the tournament, get back in some national conversations after the last few years have been out on the outside looking in. Not great news, but also not the worst news. 4 to 6 weeks. Hopefully he can come back and return to form before the end of the season.
We'll have our buddy on, Paul Fritchner, later on in the show. Going to ask him all about this. And speaking of Paul, shared some news with some tip-off times for us regarding the Cincinnati Open that's slated for October 7th. Expected Cincinnati and Ohio State tipping off at 3, Xavier and Dayton at 5:30.
My surprise here was the afternoon slots during the week. I figured if you could play on the afternoon, maybe use it on the weekend. More fans could get down and have some fun. But makes sense to play before the night with the outdoor courts and everything along those lines. So still really excited for this one. Think it'll be a lot of fun. And as you see right there, tickets go on sale today. So keep your eyes out if you want to go up there for those games on October 7th.
Yeah, absolutely looking forward to that one. I don't mind the afternoon, some afternoon college hoops in action.
Early October?
Yeah,
it's going to be beautiful.
It's I cannot wait. That's going to be phenomenal. Something I probably can wait for is it's just the LeBron news on the show. I think we can kind of maybe start teetering, away from that. But reports are coming out that LeBron and ESPN closing in on an agreement for a behind-the-scenes documentary similar to what we saw out of Michael Jordan in The Last Dance.
You were all in on LeBron news before he chose somewhere other than Cleveland. Now we got to bump it down. Funny how that works.
I need some time to heal.
And that's okay.
It's still raw.
Well, at least you'll have a whole year or maybe two before this documentary comes out. I'm really excited for this one. LeBron's had camera crews with him for various points of his career. A part of the documentary I'm sure you'll be excited about is that 2016 championship team had a crew with him around then as well. So I think this is going to be unbelievable whenever it does drop. Maverick Carter came out yesterday, LeBron's agent, and said they do not have anything like the Last Dance deal in place right now. LeBron doesn't even know when his last season is. Well, it makes sense LeBron wouldn't announce it. I do not believe there is not a film crew following him around Philadelphia. So this is going to be a lot of fun to see. We're going to see it all play out at some point. I would imagine we don't get any more updates about this until potentially a release date or a trailer in a couple years. I'm almost in the camp that if you film this and have it done, put it on the shelf for like 15 or 20 years. Jordan's came out well after his retirement. Let LeBron kind of get out of the spotlight and then air something like this. I'm really excited for it. Think it'll be a lot of fun, but hopefully don't release it right away.
I need at least a year minimum before I'm ready to watch anything remotely close to a behind-the-scenes doc with LeBron, even if it does have the 2016 championship team in there. What are your thoughts on this one? The Milwaukee Brewers. When I saw you put the word nightmare in show flow, I was like, oh, Jacob has a take.
This is the worst trade deadline notification I saw yesterday, and it wasn't that Hunter Green's potentially on the move. It's that the Brewers are in the hunt for the two most desirable pitchers at the deadline. Not just Tariq Skubal from the Tigers, but Mason Miller from the Padres as well. The Brewers making calls on the league's best closer and the league's best starter. We've seen what they're able to do with much worse pitchers at those positions, turning them into some of the league's best. Really scary what they could potentially do with these guys. So as much as we're watching what the Reds do at the trade deadline, I'm also keeping my eyes on the rest of the division, because this isn't just stuff that affects this year. It can ripple for years and years from now on. So hopefully the Brewers can't get Skubal or Mason Miller up to Milwaukee.
Yeah, we don't want that to happen. That would just be like actually nightmares. This is what nightmares are made out of, especially for 2027. Yeah, no, we don't need that. Something that dreams are made of, especially for Chris Olave down in the Saints, is a new contract extension. Olave and the Saints agreeing to a 4-year extension worth up to $132 million, $90 million guaranteed. Loved seeing this come through for Olave, and Ohio State players, and especially receivers, just keep getting paid in the NFL.
Ohio State wide receiver contracts over the last 2 off seasons. 4 years, $169 for Jackson Smith and Jigba. 4 years, $132 for Olave. 4 years, $130 for Garrett Wilson. And 3 years, $97 for Terry McLaurin. Unbelievable what Ohio State's been able to do as a wide receiver factory. And the best is yet to come. Jeremiah Smith will be in the 2027 class, and Chris Henry Jr. a few years after that. Really exciting to see these records just continue to be broken by Ohio State wide receivers.
Yeah, it's awesome. One of my favorite topics. We're going to talk some Ohio State football on the show, because why not? James isn't here to veto us, so we're going to have some Buckeye chat along on the way. But another piece we need to update on. This news broke earlier this week, but Luke Kuechly, Cincinnati native, spent so many seasons in Carolina. He is going to be Netflix's #1 game analyst. I'm excited for this. I think Kuechly is going to be phenomenal in the booth.
He had a couple games on ESPN Plus last year where he did an alternate all-22 telecast and was great. He's one of my favorite players of recent memory to hear talk about the game. Just the way he sees it from where he played the linebacker position in Carolina is really, really cool. He was never the fastest or the strongest player, so much of what he was able to do to build his Hall of Fame career was done mentally, and the way he sees the game is really, really cool. I'm excited to have him in the booth, and I think Netflix has done a good job trying to build that crew over the last few years. They're getting some really talented people in there.
Yeah, they definitely are. And speaking of talented people, a guy, at least I know I grew up watching up there in Minnesota with the Vikings for all those years, Adrian Peterson, going to be inducted into the Vikings Ring of Honor November 9th when they play the Buffalo Bills on Monday Night Football. Well-deserved honor for AP.
All day. Yep. This is the best running back I've ever seen. So great to see him get in the Ring of Honor. Adrian Peterson was unbelievable. So really, really cool. And this is the first era of players I grew up watching getting into Ring of Honors and Hall of Fame. So a little bit weird to see notifications like that, but very, very cool and certainly well deserved.
Yeah, it's only going to continue too. Well, we are just continuing here on First Word for you on a fired up Friday. A lot more Bengals talk, a lot more Reds talk on the way. Make sure you keep it here with you until 11 o'clock on The Crown. Comes to James Brooks, you got to play with him for a handful of years. I mean, what was it like, being one of the linemen, blocking for him, especially when he would hit a hole like he would?
Well, first of all, I'm old school. I didn't talk a lot during games, and JB loved to talk trash. I mean, it was like, and why not? He could back it up. But, it was fun. It was fun because, it's funny. I always give a little history on the zone blocking scheme because people think it's something new, but we ran it just about my whole career, and to have a guy like James Brooks running it was fun because you just take care of your job, and all of a sudden all you see is the back of 21 and Brooks on the back. The guy was amazing hitting holes, and like I said, if there wasn't much of a hole, he made the hole because the strength that guy had as a running back was amazing. I mean, like I said, he could run around you and he could run through you. So being able to block for James Brooks was a lot of fun, and of course we had some great linemen that we worked together to do that. And like I said, I mean, you could play action fake, and if Boomer didn't see anything downfield, he could always, dump it off to JB, and it was an automatic catch because JB didn't drop many things, and then he would do his thing after that, running the football. So just an all-around great running back, so it's great to have him in the Ring of Honor.
Championship 2 years ago, fell a little bit short last year. The schedule is no joke this season. Takes a little bit of a step forward from last year. How do you think the Buckeyes are going to attack a much more difficult schedule than they've seen in the last couple seasons?
Yeah, Jacob, this schedule is crazy when you think about it. They have road games at Texas, which is predicted to be in the top 3 or 4. Another road game at USC, which is projected to be in the top 15. Then also at Iowa, which is a top 20 team potentially, at Nebraska, very tough place to play. And your easy one was supposed to be at Indiana, which has been down forever, except they're the defending national champions. So this is by far the toughest road schedule that I can ever recall from Ohio State. Oh, and then at home, you're going to play Illinois, which was a top 25 team last year, Oregon, which is predicted by some to win the national championship this year, and your rival, Michigan, with its new head coach, Kyle Whittingham, wanting to come in and establish something right away. So it doesn't get much tougher than those 8 games right there that we outlined, and I think it's going to be, if they get to the end of this season 11-1 or 12-0, they will have really accomplished something.
Cincinnati, home to more than a dozen Fortune 500 companies. A city where you know someone who knows someone, and you're in business. Every weekday at noon, The Working Lunch brings you headlines from local businesses, along with exclusive interviews with owners and local leaders. East Side, West Side, northern suburbs, downtown over the Rhine, and northern Kentucky. Real conversations, real Cincinnati. The Working Lunch with Jack Crumley. Weekdays at noon, only on The Crown.
This city deserves its crown. Watch, listen, subscribe.
Welcome back to First Word. Jacob here, not James, and joined by Paul Fritchner.
It's just one last day at the desk with you guys.
Well, it's good to have you here.
A send-off the right way, hopefully.
This will be a fun one, certainly the right way. Take it away, Marisa.
I have a feeling it's going to be a perfect send-off for our buddy Paul Fritchner here at the desk. And here's a little spoiler alert. A lot of Sal Stewart on the countdown today. Sal driving in his 80th RBI of the season last night. Had to make the countdown and kick things off with this stat. It's just been a phenomenal rookie season for Sal Stewart. And how good, you guys might ask? Well, let's show you this next slide here. The most RBIs through July for NL rookies since 1920. Sal, obviously this was before his 80th ribby last night, but just 2 other players have only driven in more runs than Sal during their rookie campaign through July. And guys, always a good thing when you're kind of being compared to Pete Alonso and Albert Pujols.
Yeah,
this is great.
It's an even better, sorry to cut you off.
No,
it's an even better thing when you're on a list with Wally Bird.
Correct. That's where I go. The 2 he's chasing from the late 20s and early 30s. That's usually a good sign that you're doing something that's not done very often. Can we get a grand slam tonight? He's at 80 by the end of July. 83 is the record. Can we get a grand slam tonight?
It doesn't even need to be a grand slam. It could be 2 separate occasions where he drives in 2 runs.
You're right. Beggars can't be choosers. Just get me to 84 RBIs by the end of July.
I will take a walk-off grand slam and nothing else counts.
You know what? Sign me up.
Yeah.
I'll take that as well.
4 little single knocks around the base pass. Driving in 4 runs the boring way, bunting it down the third baseline on a squeeze play.
You want the rally killers.
I want it. The rally killers, that's the only way.
You know what? We'll try to make it happen just for you, Paul. Sal Stewart, we'll see what he does tonight over at GABP. But throughout the course of the season, we've seen Sal's personality shine when he's caught up in different interviews and media appearances. And this is one of the latest ones when he sat down in the dugout with Eduardo Perez.
Because a lot of good players have won it. And I didn't have many options.
All right, well, we're having a little technical difficulties on that front. We'll see if maybe we can get the sound for you later on in Countdown. But basically, Sal sat down with Eduardo. They talked a little bit about just him being from Miami, why he wears the number he wears, and talked about just how successful he's been at ABS Challenges this season.
One of the most surprising things this year, obviously, the production at the plate's been great and the versatility on defense, but the ABS challenging and how great his eye's been has been really cool for Sal. Glad he doesn't sound like that either, because I love his post-game interviews, so it's great we can hear him.
Great with robot ums, great with robot interviews.
There we go.
Yeah.
I'm glad Sal's not a robot there, and it's just kind of one of those things. But we can move on in Countdown though, and listen in now. I will admit, I hate that this one is coming from the Ravens and we're highlighting Baltimore in this way, but this was one of the cooler things I have seen a team do, welcoming back in their players to the start of training camp.
Now arriving, the 2-time Pro Bowler, fastest player in Ravens history to reach 100 career receptions, hailing from Fort Lauderdale, Florida, out of Boston College, wide receiver number 4, Zay Flowers.
You got a good voice.
The best safety in the league. 2-time first-team All-Pro. The chess piece himself, number 14, Kyle Hamilton.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
By way of Virginia Tech and Duke University, number 90, won the Heisman at the University of Louisville.
It is crazy. Oh, funny.
First round of the 2018 draft. Certified.
I gotta give credit to the Ravens here. Well done on this and the execution. What a voice by their PA announcer too.
Very cool. Can't argue that. I will push back that we have to give credit to the Ravens when they do something cool. I love this video as well, but I hate when the Ravens do cool stuff.
Okay, this is clearly just an oversight. Not an oversight on my part. I'm not working in this, so but shout out to all these teams for being prepared enough to think ahead that all of these guys are going to show up at the same time and do this, and put the Bengals put the DJ out there, they put the PA announcer out there.
I don't think this is something I've really seen at this scale until this year, and not just the Bengals and Ravens.
It's taken off this season, where we've seen more teams do different kind of like heightened welcome back, welcomings for their players. I know a couple years ago at the Bengals, we had a welcome back to camp, and we set up a tent and we gave the guys s'mores as they walked in. So like, fun social videos have been done in the past like this, but this season just feels like at a different level.
Almost league-wide. I mean, certainly a lot of teams leaning into it, and I think that's just raises the excitement level for camp a little bit. So
Roger put out a memo here.
Roger might have.
Roger put out a memo.
Roger is first team all memos.
He is.
So he could have got that
good
done.
memo.
He loves a good memo.
He might be first team all memo. T. Higgins, though, first team all good guy. One of my favorite things that I love about camp is the players interacting with fans and kids, and T. Higgins right here spending some time with some of the youngsters in attendance playing a little catch.
This is great because every single one of these kids is going to remember this, and that's why when you see like guys in the outfield, right, and they start throwing before the game with somebody in the stands, or you see this, every single one of those players is going to remember. Like, he's wearing a Jamar Chase jersey. He comes to today's training camp, he's going to be wearing a T. Higgins
For
jersey.
sure. No, absolutely. In building fan bases, this is how you do it. You interact with the kids and everything like that. And T has been great on the field since he's gotten to Cincinnati, but just as great with the fan base and all of these young guys as well. So really cool to see, and someone I'm really happy since.
He went up and down the line. It wasn't just this kid. Like, he went up and down the line and, got everybody involved. I have a follow-up question on yesterday. Do we have any development on our friend? Was it Grant?
Right. Grant's the artist who drew the portrait of Ted Karras in the Cincy hat. No, we need to track him down. I'll do some investigative research over the weekend.
I need a portrait of you three at the First Word desk. I'm
awesome.
commissioning that from Grant. All right.
Yeah, sign
Grant's
us up.
artistic talent was a main talking point really throughout the day, now leading into today in the office as well.
Yeah. I know. Well, this Cincy hat. I wore the Cincy hat. Shout out Ted Karras, our recurring guest, friend of the program.
Yeah, big shout
Try
out
and
to
incentivize
Ted Karras. And gonna move on to the #1 countdown topic today. Shout out Paul Fritchner. Let's cut away shot to Paul. So Paul had a softball game last night, and he was on the mound for it. And we put our private investigator to work out in right field. Paul's wife did some sleuthing for us, got us this behind the scenes, never before seen footage.
Right field.
And videotaping you while you're well, she didn't really have to worry about any balls coming over because you walked everyone.
I did. I walked in, I think, so this is our 5th season. This is disgusting. This is our 5th season of softball. Both of our pitchers were not there last night, so I pitched. I think in 5 seasons of softball, last night was the first time we've ever had to make a legitimate pitching change. I walked in 4 back.
Well, we've got the stats to back it up.
We got to hear it back, Paul. Don't you worry. It was a rough day for Paul. Just an inning and a third. 6 walks, 1 hit by pitch, 2 Ks. Remember, this is underhand, slow pitch softball. Infinity pitch count. So, tough one.
Tough night.
It hurts that that's an accurate stat line, too.
You didn't see that one coming.
You guys did. I wondered why everybody was so curious during the game. Nobody has ever talked about stats on this team. It was like, hey, do you remember how long you threw? I was like, well, I was out there for maybe like an inning and a half, whatever. This is gross. This is everybody coming together against me and I'm just trying to do a good thing for my team and fill in when our pitchers aren't there. And you guys are airing me out.
Got to give a shout out to Gabe and Casey in the control room for all of their effort and work on this bit too, and the phenomenal stats graphic.
Also the courtesy on the video. Courtesy Lizzie Fritchner is phenomenal, and that's just a phenomenal graphic there. And I love the nod to team history as well.
I had a triple, I think a double, scored 2 runs. Like, we couldn't do anything at the plate.
All right, Shohei, we're focusing on the mound.
If you couldn't hear that come through, Gabe chimed in over the air just now and said, it doesn't matter, Paul. It's about what you did on the mound.
Here's the thing. I wasn't even close. Like, Lizzie actually yelled from right field, you have the yips. I was not even close. I hit 3 people. In slow pitch softball.
You can hear her laughing in one of the videos.
The audio on the videos are hilarious.
I don't even want to hear the audio. That's gross.
Just unbelievable.
Oh, man.
Oh, bad question in the chat that I feel like I have to share. What's more likely, Jacob hits a 3 or Paul gets a strikeout?
I actually did strike somebody out last night.
And I hit 1-3 in the knockout video.
You did. 1
wash.
comes out in the wash.
Good job, that side of the desk.
Yeah.
You guys are doing things on a Friday.
Look at us.
No, it's, you know what, Paul, for as brutal as it is to watch what's on my screen right now, this won't stop me from asking you to sub on my softball team. I'm just not going to have you pitch.
That's fine. You know what? Twist my arm. I'll play right
no
field.
No pitching, no outfield. You're running out of spots to play, Paulie.
No, I'll go back in right field. I got to redeem myself.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's fine.
That's fair. He'll redeem
Yeah.
himself, and we'll redeem ourselves here on First Word because we're going to have Paul stay with us on for one more segment, and we're going to have it be a Paul segment again. No more poll question. We're going to talk a little bit UC Bearcats basketball and get the latest on that front. Make sure you stay with us right here on First Word all the way until 11 o'clock and get as many replays of this video as you can.
Sad.
This city has always had something to prove. While the rest of the country talked about us, we built our own voice. Blue collar, underdogs, built differently, overlooked, talked about like we were supposed to stay quiet. But that was never who we were, because this city doesn't wait for permission. And neither do we. And now, for the first time, Cincinnati has a network built in its image, because the biggest stories in this city deserve more than highlights. This isn't cable television. This isn't national media. This is ours. This is the Crown.
Hi, my name is Natalie Jones, a Cincinnati native, and I have been in media for about 10 years now. Formerly on the radio here in Cincinnati, I grew my love and obsession with finding all things fun in Cincinnati and have now made it my life. I'm originally from the west side here, and then I've pretty much been a downtown girl ever since college. But I did leave for 7 years, and during that time, I really grew and harnessed and cut my teeth doing stand-up comedy in Los Angeles, learning how to ski in Colorado, and now I'm back here in Cincinnati, driven by curiosity and grounded by family.
We have breaking news from the Cincinnati Bengals announced their 2026 Ring of Honor inductees. And fans, thank you for getting this one right. James Brooks and Bob Trumpy, the next two to be inducted into the Ring of Honor with the new format and with the addition of some of the modern era players. I am thrilled, I'm ecstatic that these two legends are being inducted and being honored in this way. Absolutely deserved it this year.
Excitement, absolutely. A partial sigh of relief as well, and a huge thank you to the season ticket holders and fans that got this one right. Prioritizing the guys who have done it before, and it's a shame that Bob Trumpy won't get to have his day in the stadium to see his induction, but certainly well deserving of the moment. James Brooks as well. You ask anyone that's watched him play, a lot of people say he's the best running back to ever wear the stripes. So it's a very, very good class for the Ring of Honor. Two incredibly deserving players and absolute legends of the franchise. This is what you do a Ring of Honor for. So players like James Brooks, Bob Trumpy, and the long list of guys that have already been put in over the last few years get their recognition from the organization because they've given so much to it.
I'm Paul Fritchner. I'm a 2019 graduate of Xavier University, and I've been covering college basketball for 10 years here in the Cincinnati area. I'm the host of the Rebound Rundown, a daily college basketball podcast during the season and a weekly show in the off-season covering everything you need to know about your favorite team. And if you're not a fan of a team here in Cincinnati, I have you covered from the national perspective as well. Follow it on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts.
This city deserves its crown. Watch, listen, subscribe.
Welcome back into First Word with you all the way until 11 o'clock this morning. Marisa Contipelli and Jacob Tissot, and excited to be joined by Paul Fritchner. And we had a little bit of fun with Paul last segment on Countdown. So we thought, Paul, we would make it up to you by talking some college hoops now. And unfortunate news, though, coming out of UC Bearcats, Tylan Riley. News came out yesterday. He's going to be sidelined with a hand injury for about 4 to 6 weeks, means we won't see him in the Bahamas.
Yeah, this is a pretty significant deal for Cincinnati. Now, luckily for Cincinnati, it's happening in July and not in November. But yeah, this is something that happened to Tylan in practice. The report was that it was, I believe, to his left hand, somewhere on his left hand. But an injury that's going to sideline him for a little while, potentially could be, as you see here, 4 to 6 weeks. That's just when he's going to be reevaluated. And when you hear the term reevaluated, that's almost less than ideal, because just because you're going to reevaluate him in 4 to 6 weeks does not necessarily mean that he's immediately going to be cleared and going to be back. And to put it in perspective, for Tylan Riley, he was potentially this team's best player. I was considering him the Bearcats' best player before MJ Collins just committed and has now been added to the roster. Tylan Riley is a point guard from Tulsa. He's the starting point guard of this team and somebody that was going to be a true difference maker. He was the big kind of cornerstone piece out of the transfer portal for Cincinnati. So for him to be sidelined right now, yeah, it's fine in a sense that it's July and into August. It's not fine in the sense that you're going to miss him next week in the Bahamas, the first opportunity to see him play in front of the public. And it's not like you're playing the stiffest competition in the Bahamas. It's really an opportunity to get down there, get some team bonding, get you guys together and play somebody that's not just in a Cincinnati jersey. But this is a significant deal for Cincinnati, because if this is something that lingers into the season, if this is something that carries over longer toward the start of preseason practice at the end of September, that is when you start to get concerned. I am excited for Elijah Perryman, the transfer from Utah State, coming over with Jared Calhoun, somebody that I think could be an absolute star for Cincinnati if he sticks around down the line playing for his coach, Jared Calhoun. Like I said, you follow him from Utah State. I think Elijah Perryman has all the goods to be a huge, huge piece of this team moving forward, and now you're thrust into that role over the next month or so. I'm excited to see him play, but this is a big bummer for Tylan Riley and for Bearcats fans that on Sunday and Tuesday are hoping to watch Tylan Riley play basketball in a Bearcats jersey for the first time. It won't happen.
Yeah, how much bigger is this of a tough pill to swallow with the transfer portal and all the money budgeted for a player like Riley?
Yeah, there's definitely an aspect of that for sure, right, where this is, like I said, a cornerstone piece out of the portal. Before MJ Collins joins the team, in my opinion, Tylan Riley was the best player on this team, a double-digit scorer at Tulsa last year, an AAC difference maker, and somebody that I felt like could really translate up to the Big 12 level pretty well. Now, this blow is softened from a playmaking perspective by MJ Collins being added to the team. They're not identical players, obviously. MJ Collins is not your point guard, but they are, from a playmaking perspective, if you don't have MJ Collins and this Tylan Riley injury, let's just say it lingers. Worst case scenario, it lingers for a while into the start of the season. Hopefully he's back by, the start of September. But if it was to linger, that, could be an issue.
Yeah, Riley last season at Tulsa averaged 15 points, just over 4 assists per game. Paul, appreciate you coming on Countdown and on the show the last week.
Hey, James, hopefully we'll see you on Monday. Today, it's great to see you guys. I'm sorry I'm leaving, but hey, I'll be around. I'll be upstairs.
Goodbye. It's just an I'll see you later.
That's right. I don't know if I will see you later. I don't know. We'll see if I get the invite at some point.
I'm confident you'll get the invite in the future. But make sure you stay with us here on First Word. Coming up next, time for more Reds talk right here on First Word.
We welcome you from Cincinnati, Ohio. Nick Hadlin, the fan favorite, to put it away. Touchdown, Cincinnati. Oh, what a catch. Cincinnati can't score. And look who scores in the
T. Higgins is exactly what you want as a wide receiver, too. I think that's a big piece of this as well. We're not ranking which one of these we're most confident in taking a jump to being a 1. I think Pickens might have a leg up there because we've seen him do it successfully in Pittsburgh, just haven't seen it from T. Higgins. No fault of his own. Jamar Chase wouldn't be a 2 to anybody, but T. Higgins has been incredibly productive here as the 2 and has no problem taking a little bit off of his plate to feed the other guys. And I think that's really important as well. We saw that with George Pickens last year. When CeeDee Lamb had huge games, he would be frustrated on the sideline, sitting all the way down the bench. Never the case with T. Higgins. I think that is really, really important when talking about wide receiver 2s as well.
It's a great point to bring up because you never have that, kind of question looming over T's head, and just his characters never come into play in that regard. And just getting to know T over the years, one of my favorites in that Bengals locker room. He's always chatting and just has that camaraderie with all the guys in there, and it's exactly the kind of, mindset that you need when you're not necessarily going to be, that first option all the time, kind of like a Jamar, just what Jamar Chase demands when he's out there on the field. And so, yeah, when you have someone like a T who is more than okay with his role on this team, because he knows he's going to get fed. He knows he's going to get his targets, his touchdowns. He's such a threat in the red zone for this Bengals team because of his size advantage and the way he's able to go up and get, contested balls and how dominant he is when he's, there on man coverage. It's refreshing to have, a player like that because T could be like a Pickens and have, issue when he's not, having a 12 catch, 100-yard, 2-touchdown game or something, to that effect. So it absolutely, to your point, goes well beyond just the on-field production. It's how do they matter in that locker room?
Cincinnati, home to more than a dozen Fortune 500 companies. A city where you know someone who knows someone, and you're in business. Every weekday at noon, The Working Lunch brings you headlines from local businesses, along with exclusive interviews with owners and local leaders. East Side, West Side, northern suburbs, downtown over the Rhine, and northern Kentucky. Real conversations, real Cincinnati. The Working Lunch with Jack Crumley. Weekdays at noon, only on The Crown.
On the radio here in Cincinnati.
Cincinnati has always felt like home.
Right here on the Crown Network.
Out and about in Cincinnati, bringing you these stories that you need to hear in the Queen City.
Welcome to First Word, Cincinnati's only morning sports show, breaking down the biggest moments and the stories shaping Cincinnati sports with analysis that cuts through. First Word, setting the agenda in Cincinnati sports.
We have a fired up Friday for you here on First Word with you all the way until 11 o'clock this morning alongside Jacob Tissot. I'm Marisa Contipelli. James Rapien taking some time away from the desk, but should be back here next week. And hopefully he hasn't missed too much, including the Reds walk-off win last night at Great American Ballpark. Thrilling fashion. But one of the guys that kind of got things going for the Reds early on in that game was Matt McLain, back with the Reds because he was activated from the 10-day injured list. It was great to see Matt back at second base there too, bringing a little bit stability there on the infield. But if we want to take a look here, the Reds made a couple of transactions before yesterday's game that also included recalling right-hander Zach McCamby and optioning down both Edwin Arroyo and Chase Petty to Louisville.
Edwin Arroyo was supposed to kind of be the savior of the team this year. He was the number one prospect talked about all season long, that he could be the one to make the jump this year. Now, obviously, Duno has been and will continue to be the number one prospect in this Reds organization, but there was no pathway for him to get to the big league club this year. So the sights were focused on Edwin Arroyo long before spring training and all the way through the start of this season. When we saw Matt McLain really struggle at the start of this year, a lot of people thought that Edwin Arroyo should come up right away, and the success he continued to have in AAA really emphasized that point. Well, he got to the big league club and has struggled, and not just at the plate, which is somewhat expected, but he struggled in the field as well. And I think that sort of made this decision for the Reds. When you have the opportunity to see what you have in young guys, I think there's value in that, absolutely. But you also have to make sure they're ready for the majors, and you're not tanking their confidence early in their careers. I think with the way Edwin Arroyo was playing in the majors, he can gain a lot from going back down to Louisville, focusing on the glove, which was his strength all throughout the minors, and hopefully coming back up and being productive, because the bat has been good enough. The bat's not going to be a leadoff or a number 2 option in the lineup, but hitting 7, 8, 9, Edwin Arroyo has been a fine back of the order bat so far. But the discrepancy in defense from Matt McLain to Arroyo, especially on the downside for Arroyo, it's been a big problem so far. So as long as Matt McLain is available and healthy enough to play, I would expect to see Matt McLain at second base more often than not the rest of this season, because I do think there's some value in seeing what he can turn into as well. We haven't seen anything great from him since 2023. It's now 2026. Hopefully he can give you a little flash of that in these last few games to have some belief that he can be the second baseman going into next year.
Yeah, I completely agree. With Arroyo, I still think there is all the talent in the world, still a high ceiling for him, but we saw it too many times up here in Cincinnati, just the defensive miscues at second base. It looks like he's still just, and it's because he hasn't had enough time. Like he needs to get comfortable a little bit more there at second. So I have no problem sending him back down to Louisville. But if you're going to do that, make sure he's playing second base and getting those reps in. Unless, and we were kind of talking about this after the show yesterday, unless you want to maybe explore moving him to a different infield position, like possibly third, if they're trying to figure out what they want to do in 2027 and beyond. But if that's not in the cards, make sure he's playing second base and getting those reps in, so you don't have the same repeat patterns that we had this season up here at the big league level.
Exactly, and I think that's the main takeaway from sending him down, is he needs to be working on something. It can't just be sending him down to send him down. He needs to be playing second base, or at least whatever the vision is for him on this team for the long term. If McLain can bounce back a little bit and show you that he can be the second baseman, maybe Arroyo can be an in-house answer for third base. But the number one thing I look at right now is the Reds traded former ace Luis Castillo for 2 top 10 prospect shortstops at the time, neither of which have panned out quite yet, neither of which are playing shortstop. So I think that's important to keep in mind as we talk about other potential trades around the deadline. All these prospects look great on paper, and minor league highlights are a lot of fun, but sometimes it doesn't work out. And that's something that seems like a daily reminder with this Reds lineup. For Arroyo specifically, something that jumps off the page to me is every single time he's been promoted, he's struggled offensively for about 40 games. The numbers don't represent the career numbers at each level, nor do they represent the peak, especially when he was at the end right before that promotion at those various levels. Single A, double A, triple A, all the same story. And if this is the MLB struggle, are the Reds potentially hurting themselves by not letting him work through it at this level? He's done it at all 3 levels before. Usually I would be inclined to send him down and have him work on it in AAA. I think that's where you should work on things. That's what the minor leagues is for. But with where this Reds team's at right now, is there something to gain by giving him major league appearances, or is there still enough faith in the organization that Matt McLain can bounce back?
It's a great question and a tough one to answer, because it's a huge question mark that you need to figure out before the end of the season, which direction you're going to go at second base. So I guess the answer right now is to have both of them work at second, and just one in Louisville, one in Cincinnati. And especially with Matt McLain, it was great to see him get a hit last night, because, man, had he struggled at the plate before then. 11 at-bats in the month of July before he had that injury. He was hitless. So glad to see him at least have a little bit of success there last night, and was the catalyst in that third inning for getting on base and being driven in by Elly De La Cruz. The hope is for McLain to get back to that form that we saw earlier in his Reds career, his first 2 seasons, because he should, in my opinion, he should be that answer at second.
For sure, and we've seen it consistently for a long enough time that I think it's hard for a lot of people to wrap their head around the version that we've seen for almost 2 years now. Because in 2023, it was McLean and Ellie, not even Ellie and McLean. They were so close together, viewed as the future of this middle infield, and we've seen the peaks of them. One of the best double play infields in the league when they're both in there. The bats struggled for McLean, but he's still been elite defensively, and I think that's what gives a little bit of promise there that he can find it again. It's just comfortability at the plate, and he needs to figure that out, because I do think he can be a key piece of this team. And we talk about the core that was up and everyone was so excited about in 2023. There's not a lot of them left. CES is in Baltimore hitting home runs and doubles all the time, and Spencer Steer is currently on the injured list, talking about potentially being traded as well. The two that are left, at least the big names, Matt McLean and Ellie De La Cruz, and we don't know where to slot Matt McLean at this point. It's crazy how quickly that's flipped from a core that was supposed to be the version that got this team back to the playoffs and got this team back to hopefully winning baseball. Not the case right now, and now you're looking at potentially trying to fix things and put players in other positions. On the transaction log, McLean listed as an infielder / outfielder. Is the outfield experiment not over yet? I thought it was when he didn't play center field after those first few games, so I don't know how to really take this with McLean. I would hope that he's playing second base in the majors.
I have to think, if you're sending Edwin Arroyo down, McLean's playing second every day, because Spencer Steer's not going out there. I don't think they're going to move Sal.
Head-scratching moves before for this team, so I just wouldn't necessarily put it past them, but that's the only thing that makes sense to me.
Yeah, I agree with you. The other factor in these transactions, Chase Petty, had seen him a lot out of the bullpen there for the Reds. What do you think this means for Petty moving forward now? Because had been one of the top starting prospects for this Reds organization, had been working out of the bullpen. I thought he did a fine job. Obviously, there were some ups and downs coming out of the pen, but what could this mean for his future?
Threw nearly 30 pitches in his last bullpen appearance, so I don't think we'll see him for a while in Louisville, and I think where he slots in that rotation or bullpen is going to be determined by who's on the move at the deadline. If the Reds move Brady Singer, which I expect them to, and Nick Lodolo, and Hunter Green, as little as we want to talk about it, then I think Chase Petty goes back to being a starter, and maybe not for this year, but to work for next year to hopefully have a piece in that rotation that you can really believe in the ceiling of. That's the thing that's different from Chase Petty and some of the other pitchers in the Reds minor leagues, is where you could see them hypothetically getting if they can reach that ceiling. Petty was a top prospect. He was the main return for a big Reds trade, so to have him in the rotation would certainly be the best place for his value. The question is just, can he do it on a consistent basis? We've seen it a little bit in the bullpen. It's great that he now has that versatility. But if the Reds move multiple starters like I kind of expect them to at this point, I would expect Petty to, at least for the rest of this season, try to become a starter again.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if that's kind of how it ends up playing out. And we have a couple of days before the trade deadline hits on Monday, and I do think you're right there. We will have a lot of questions answered with the direction for some of these players that feel like it's almost kind of like a limbo until we know which direction this team is heading for not only the rest of 2026, but 2027.
I do think as we get a lot of these expiring contracts potentially on the move in the next couple of days, you're talking about Nate Lowe, who plays first in DHs a lot, Suarez potentially as well, does open the door for a lot of these minor league prospects that have been having good seasons to get a shot they wouldn't have in standard years where the Reds are in contention. So hopefully we see Hector Rodriguez in a couple of days here after this Pirates series. We get potentially Michael Toglia, who's been playing first base for the Bats and playing really well for a while, could fill in if the Reds need another first base option. So I think there is a little bit of excitement through the back half of this season to potentially see some young guys and hopefully see some flashes.
I saw another highlight come through that Hector Rodriguez hit another home run, and I was
26 of them.
I'm ready for it.
Yeah.
Let's bring it up. Let's just unleash him. See
August
what he can
15th.
do.
Circle the date. August 15th.
You think that'll be a win? And so
if he comes up on the
Yep.
16th, he's eligible for rookie awards next year. So that's my guess at this point.
I can wait till August 16th. That's only 2 weeks away at this point. Completely fine. But we have more Reds talk on the way here on First Word. Coming up at 9:30, Joe Daneman will join us here at the desk in studio. But up next, it's time for Jacob's favorite segment of the week. And to no one's surprise, we have another really, really bad take. Worst Word is up next. But Jacob, you mentioned Cassius Howell and some of these young players who are new to this squad. Is he a guy that you're kind of, excited, eager to see and kind of watching this camp?
He's the one for me. He's the one I'm most excited to see in training camp. And I think he would be that way for most people if the offseason was a standard Bengals offseason. So much talk about the pass rush and the need to revamp the defense and the defensive line, especially losing Trey Hendrickson to Baltimore. Well, the Bengals did that really, really well in the second round. Cassius Howell was a consensus first rounder going into draft night, and then he fell all the way down to the Bengals in the second. A huge win for this team to get a productive pass rusher in the second round, and quite frankly, the exact opposite of Shamar Stewart from 2 years ago. An incredibly productive player at Texas A&M, first team All-SEC, a first team All-American, the SEC's sack leader last season, but undersized. Not exactly the ideal NFL build. Shorter arms, relies a lot on speed over power, and I think that's something I'm really excited to see as well, because that is outside of the Bengals' comfort zone. They're going to have to try new things with a player like Cassius Howell, use him a little bit differently than these big-bodied freak athlete edge rushers that they've been drafting pretty consistently over the last few years. So I am over the moon excited to see Cassius Howell, and I think if we didn't spend so much time talking about Brian Cook and Dexter Lawrence and Boy Mafe and Jonathan Allen and DJ Turner's extension and all the other things going on with the Bengals this offseason, there would have been a lot more talk about Cassius Howell, because everything we heard last year about Shamar Stewart going into the season, Howell checks all of those boxes. Incredibly productive in college, did it at a high level against elite competition, fell a little bit in the draft, so the Bengals were able to take that advantage of that, and I think he'll be able to drop in there and be really, really productive right away, because he's great at one thing. You're not going to ask him to do a ton. He's an elite pass rusher, and that's exactly the role he's going to play for the Bengals. My name is Jacob Tissot, and I'm a co-host of First Word from 7 to 11 every morning right here on the Crown Network, where we will break down the biggest stories in Cincinnati sports. I'm a graduate of the University of Alabama, where I spent 4 seasons working for the football team as a student assistant, contributing to the 2020 National Championship and 3 SEC championships. I'm a Cincinnati native, a St. Xavier High School graduate, and will bring a local perspective and passion to covering the Bengals, Reds, and everything in between. I'm excited to have you join us on First Word.
Hey, I'm Marisa Contipelli, one of the co-hosts on First Word and a features producer here on The Crown, where I will be out and about in Cincinnati bringing you the stories that you need to hear in the Queen City. Now, I know I'm from Cleveland, but I love my Cincy sports. I've been in Cincinnati for almost a decade now, spending the last 8 seasons with the Bengals as a team reporter and senior producer. I am so excited to be a part of the team here at The Crown, and I can't wait to bring you the latest from around the city.
This city deserves its crown. Watch, listen, subscribe.
It is now time for the segment that Jacob has been waiting all week long for. Welcome back into First Word. Marisa Contipelli and Jacob Tissot with you this morning, all the way until 11 o'clock here on The Crown. And boy, oh boy, do we have a worst word of the week for you. And before we get to that, Jacob, we've had so many nominations for Worst Word of the Week each of the past few weeks. I'm starting to think, do we need to consider doing a worst word of the day for how many of these we're getting, especially when it comes to the Bengals, which has been the only worst words we've really been having as of late?
Yeah, to be fair, if you want to do worst Reds words, you could probably just do it from me. So it's great to see that they're giving us enough options for the Bengals here. It's every single day, and we certainly could do it if we wanted to. A debut today. So shout out to Jordan Rogers for giving us enough ammo to have a full segment.
Yeah, I was a little surprised when I saw this one come through, but the latest worst word of the week is from Aaron Rodgers and the First Take Desk.
if they don't make the playoffs, it's you make a great point. Joe Burrow's going to want out. If that's not the case, they're going to blow everything up around him, right? From a roster, coaching staff, and they got to find a way to continue to entice him to come back. I like what they did on defense. I like the additions they made. Boye Mafe is a guy that can add pass rush stability on the outside. Cassius Howell is a guy that now with potentially the Shamar Stewart injury, he's going to get some more looks as a rookie that's a really talented pass rusher. What if the defense is good this year and the offense doesn't live up to standards? Then how does this change, right? Because to your point, the excuses are gone for this offense. Right now, you can't say if the defense doesn't improve, but the defense, the injuries, if they're healthy. So I think there is actually more pressure on Joe Burrow than a lot of people maybe want to admit, because everyone looks at the defense and everyone says, well, it's been the defense. It's not Joe. It's been the defense. Now that box is kind of checked. Okay, they're better on that side of the ball. Now Joe's got to go prove it. And I think he can and will, but I think there's a ton of pressure to that camp fight for Jamar Chase that everybody's feeling on offense. Now the defense seemingly on paper is improving.
Well, when you said you think he can, it sounds like potential. And as we know in the NFL, potential gets you fired. If you're talking about potential, that means you can't talk about winning. And if you're looking at a 4-season span when you don't go to the playoffs, it's hard to justify the elite moniker. I mean, if you want to go to the annals of NFL history and look at Hall of Fame quarterbacks, the only one that I can think of that went 4 straight seasons being outside looking at the playoffs is Dan Marino. In one of those years, then during that span, was a strike-shortened season, and you're talking about that time in the NFL in the late 80s, only 10 teams making the postseason. In today's NFL, you got 14 teams making the playoffs. So there are zero excuses as to why Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals can't get this done. He has this team the exact way he wanted it. Last offseason, he campaigned for his wide receivers to get paid. He wanted Trey Hendrickson back in the fold. And guess what? The Bengals found a way to make it all work with all of them back. And it resulted in the Cincinnati Bengals, again, missing the postseason in a year where Lamar Jackson missed the month of the season. Aaron Rodgers was 23rd in QBR, and the Cleveland Browns were a disaster with 3 different starting quarterbacks.
I need to correct myself there. It was Jordan Rodgers with this take, not Aaron Rodgers, but Jordan Rodgers saying Joe Burrow's going to want out. If that's not the case, they're going to blow up everything around him. Why does everyone in the national media just assume Burrow wants out of Cincinnati when he's given zero indication of that?
The back half of that clip was great. There's pressure on the players. There's pressure on the offense to do their job and match what they did the last 3 years. Now that the defense is at a better level. No issues with that. I actually agree, and we've said it quite a bit this offseason here. Why, if it goes poorly, is Joe Burrow immediately headed to a big market? I don't understand that. That's the thing I continue to struggle to wrap my head around this offseason. If the Bengals don't win this year, why wouldn't they win this year? And I think the question, or the answer, a lot of people have landed onto that question, is a Joe Burrow injury. If that's the case, then why is he forcing himself out with the continuity of the offensive line, the additions to the defense? This front office did as good of a job as anybody that missed the playoffs last year at flipping the roster to get back to the playoffs this year. I really applaud them for the extra length they went to this offseason to improve this roster. Now, the only way the Bengals fall short is if there's injuries on this team, and I firmly believe that. Now, if that's not the case and there's some crazy surprise here, then sure, there can be some other conversations about changing this roster, but it's not changing Joe Burrow. You're not moving off of one of the best quarterbacks in the league just because you missed the playoffs a few years in a row. There's bigger changes in the organization that will have to happen if the Bengals are outside the playoffs for 4 years in a row, not at the quarterback position.
No, and let's say worst case scenario, the Bengals have everyone healthy and still somehow miss the playoffs. For them to say if they're going to blow everything up around Joe Burrow.
What is everything?
That's where I have questions, because I could see personnel changes happening. Joe's not going to go anywhere. Jamar's not going anywhere. I don't think they're going to get rid of T. What do you mean blow everything up?
Yeah,
I don't understand what that.
You trade in your potential all-pro tackle this year in Amarius Mims? Are you moving off the sophomore guard and Dylan Fairchild, who looked great last year? Even defensively, you have Dexter Lawrence locked up at a bargain contract now on the defensive line, probably renegotiating next year, but at least right now, $10 million below that top defensive lineman payment. Young edges, exciting corners that I think we're all hoping they extend this offseason. The Bengals roster is in such a good spot right now and aligned on a timeline. Everything makes sense together right now for all of these players to hit the ground running this year, but even next year and the year after, as these young guys enter their prime and stay in the heart of it, this team's going to be its best together. And I think that's what's really exciting about this roster is everyone is going to continue to progress along the same relative timeline, and this team's going to get better and better over the next few years. I don't know how you blow it up this year. I don't know what there is to blow up because this core just got here this offseason.
Unless they really are just talking about the coaching staff and maybe other moves within the organization. But the way this is phrased, it makes me think that Rodgers and them are talking about players and just the offensive scheme. I don't know. It's a little kind of confusing, when we're looking at it this morning because it just make it make sense. And I can't make it make sense because to your point, why would you want to blow something up with this core, this offensive nucleus that they've worked so hard to get together, and especially if everyone can remain healthy and continue down that trend. And if the Bengals miss the playoffs, it doesn't necessarily mean that's on the offense, that the offense faltered just in general, because the defense is really what we are looking at. And for this defense to make strides and improve and to be at least a middle of the road defense, because if that's the case, they should be a playoff team.
Yeah, and you talk about the other quarterbacks in elite conversations there in the clip where he says Dan Marino is the only one of that list that has some kind of excuse about it here. Joe Burrow missed the playoffs in 2024. He started every single game. He led the league in yards, touchdowns, yards per game, completions, attempts, completion percentage. How does that not get you a little bit of a pass in a quarterback conversation about missing the playoffs? There's nothing more that Joe Burrow could have done in 2024, and the roster fell short. That's why the Bengals attacked this offseason the way they did. This seems like a goal for everyone in the media to get Joe Burrow out of Cincinnati, and it started before he even got drafted here. There were talks when the Bengals had the first overall pick in the draft that he should pull an Eli Manning and force his way to franchises like the Chargers and the Dolphins, which are somehow much better than the Bengals are. The Bengals have a great history of quarterback play in this organization. I never understood why they're viewed as one of those other teams towards the bottom of the league. Sure, championships haven't come with that, but the Bengals have had great weapons and great quarterback play for the vast majority of this franchise's history. Joe Burrow's just the next chapter in that, and there's no way the Bengals are going to willingly move off of him unless something goes horribly wrong, which is much, much worse than just being outside the playoffs this year looking in.
It really just seems like national media wants Burrow in one of these bigger markets because it's New York, it's LA, it's Miami, Chicago, whatever the case may be. Why is it so different with Burrow, but like Patrick Mahomes, who plays in Kansas City, kind of has a different path? And I get it. The Chiefs have won how many Super Bowls, and he's won how many MVPs at this point, and Burrow has not done that yet. That's not what I'm saying here. It's trying to compare the market sizes of a Cincinnati to a Kansas City. And I really fear
Josh in Buffalo.
Yes, exactly. Like I fear that this conversation is never going to go away. It's going to be here for the duration of Burrow's career, even after he wins an MVP, after he wins a Super Bowl. It's going to be like, oh, he's got his trophy in Cincinnati. Now time to move on. I don't think it's ever going to go away.
I think that's the concern. I think a lot of people are trying to check boxes in his career in Cincinnati. Yes, he got them back to contention. Okay, if he gets lucky enough to win a Super Bowl, that's when the push is going to get even harder, I think, to get him out of Cincinnati. You did what you needed to do. Now go play for a better organization, as a lot of these people continue to phrase it as, and I just don't understand it. I think this is the best chance for Joe Burrow, and I likened it a couple weeks ago to what LeBron James did in Cleveland. And this championship that Joe Burrow could win here in Cincinnati for the Bengals is worth 3 or 4. That what it would mean to this city, what it would mean to this fan base, what it would mean to Joe Burrow's legacy to be the one to flip this team and this organization into a legitimate championship team. It's not worth it to go try to have a little bit better chance to compete in LA or New York or something like that. And I'm not convinced you would even have a better chance. That's why I'm so surprised that this continues to be a talking point.
Are you taking this Bengals team or what the Dolphins are putting out there?
Yeah, I'm good on that.
Exactly.
Tua's not even there anymore, and Justin Herbert's never won a playoff game. But Joe Burrow should have forced his way to those two teams.
Yeah, it's confusing. It's something that is going to consistently be a worst word of the week as long as they keep talking about it nationally. But going back to your point, what a championship would mean here in Cincinnati if Joe Burrow is the one to get this team over that hump and capture the first. means light years beyond what a title and a Super Bowl would mean in a New York, in a Los Angeles, with just about, I'd say maybe 28, 29 other franchises.
No question. And I think so much of it being the kid from Ohio coming into this organization when it was as dark of a time as it's ever been, and adding another friend from college and Jamar Chase to this team and being viewed as a pair from day one all the way through. The initial success of making it to a Super Bowl in the first year together, to the lows of the years in between, to now having a roster that's good enough to compete again. Really, really exciting. And hopefully Joe Burrow can go win that so this conversation can finally end after this season.
You know, we're going to end this conversation right now because we've had enough. That's your worst word of the week. Thank you so much, First Take Desk. But up next here on First Word, well, we have Joe Daneman from Fox 19 going to be joining us right here in studio. Going to be getting his perspective and take on what he's seen out of Bengals camp so far.
The Crown has you covered. Start your day with the First Word, Cincinnati's only morning sports show. Power through midday with the Working Lunch. Cincinnati business talk that keeps you in the know. Nat tries that for lifestyle around the city. And the Rebound Rundown covers every corner of the college basketball scene in the tri-state and beyond. This is The Crown. Built for Cincinnati. First Word for your morning sports. The Working Lunch for business that hits home. Nat tries that for lifestyle around the city. And Rebound Rundown for college hoops. This city deserves its crown. Watch, listen, subscribe.
USA Today posted 12 players who possibly are on the bubble right now for their respective MLB teams, and a name that was on there that I was a little nervous to see at first, Hunter Green. But Jacob, possibly some good news for Reds fans because Bob Nightingale doesn't think Hunter Green is going to be going anywhere.
Good news for at least the section of Reds fans that want to keep Hunter Green. I'm still surprised by what seems to be the split among this conversation. A growing group of Reds fans seem to think that trading Hunter Green should be on the table, and I understand the concept. It seems like over the last few weeks, the number of sellers on the market has really dwindled down as the wild card races in both divisions continue to scrunch up. Hunter Green becomes incredibly valuable, and that's exactly what Bob Nightingale says here. With so few sellers on the market and Green not turning 27 until 3 days after the trade deadline, the Reds may be intrigued to see just what they could command on the market. But the prediction does say staying, and that does make me feel really, really good. I think the biggest news, in my opinion, about Hunter Green at the trade deadline over the last 2 days is this article from Bob Nightingale, as well as Jeff Passan's top 100 trade deadline movers. I think Hunter Green being listed as staying on this one, and then on Passan's not listed in the top 100 potential players to be moved at the deadline, makes me feel really confident that the Reds aren't going to jump at an offer to trade Hunter Green. I still think it's on the table if they get blown away. It just makes sense for where this team is right now if someone's willing to give an insane package. But I don't think that's likely. So I'm certainly siding with Bob Nightingale and Jeff Passan saying Hunter Green will stay. And I think, regardless of how you feel about it right now, that is good news for the Reds, especially over the next 2 or 3 years.
Hi, my name is Natalie Jones. Just your typical 40-year-old Cincinnati girl. Although, no, I'm not married or divorced. I don't have any kids, and I don't live in the neighborhood I grew up in, which is the West Side, by the way. But what I do have is a lot of freaking time, and I've been using it well. So come along with me on this grand adventure, because I've been trying all the new shit around town that you need to know about. This is Nat Tries That.
This city deserves its crown. Watch, listen, subscribe.
Friday here on First Word with you all the way until 11 o'clock on The Crown, and excited to be joined by Fox 19's Joe Daneman. Joe, thank you for so much stopping by the First Word desk.
I think this is my third time. This is my first round of applause. So
Really?
that's different.
James, we're not giving applauses to our guy Joe. What are we doing?
That is now the standard from here on out. Whenever I'm here, I expect a round of applause.
That's handled a little differently when James decides to take a little time off.
That's great, but you got to raise it every time, the energy, so you guys have to go bigger next time I'm in. I'm not sure.
We'll get the smoke machines and the confetti in here. It'll be good to go.
We knew we were already going big by having you on with us this morning. So we're setting the bar really high, and high expectations out of the Bengals this season to the camp scuffle that happened on day one. Kind of surprised me in the sense that everyone nationally is talking about it. I didn't think it was that big of a deal at the time. I kind of liked seeing a little bit edge out of the guys. Well, what was your take, and where do you stand on the scuffles?
So the moment itself, I don't think really matters, right? It's just a couple of guys shoving each other at football practice and Jamar Chase throwing a helmet about 20 yards down the field. But I think there's a message behind it. And I think once we went inside the Bengals locker room and started talking to these guys about that and started digging in further into what Zach Taylor said to the team before they went on the field, I could understand the edge and the tone that came with it. Okay, so I was talking to Dalton Reisner after practice about it. And he said right before we went on the field, we had a team meeting, and Zach Taylor put 6 and 11 on the big board in the big team meeting room. And that was a reminder that no matter what everybody is saying about this team, and look, a lot of people are saying a lot of really nice things about the Cincinnati Bengals and this roster they've built for this coming season. But they're still a 6 and 11 team from last year, and they had to be reminded of that. And they went out there with an edge. And I think Jamar Chase wanted to set a tone. He called it anger, to go out there and practice with some anger. And Joe has talked about that too in his last press conference, even before leading up to training camp, about the idea of mean leadership, that kind of thing. I think there was an edge to it. I'm not sure Jamar went out there and said, I'm going to grab someone's helmet and throw it, but I'm going to go out there, I'm going to talk. I'm going to go out there and I'm going to be edgy, and I'm going to help these guys come along with the same idea and emotional state that I'm in. So I think that was set in motion by Zach Taylor right before they went out to the practice field. And then guys like Jamar and Joe, who want this team to play with an edge, want them to be held accountable for everything they're doing in practice. If it's not up to the standard, whatever the standard is for them, they're going to let guys know about it. So I thought it was a great thing. Usually we don't see that until pads come on or a couple of weeks into it when it gets really hot and guys get a little frustrated and a little tired and kind of sick of being around each other on the field. But to see that day one, I was like, okay, it kind of felt like there was a method to this madness a little bit.
We've talked a lot this offseason about the expectations for the leadership traits of the new additions like Dexter Lawrence, Jonathan Allen, Brian Cook. Seems like a lot of the guys that have been here are focused on taking a step as well. You mentioned Jamar Chase, Joe Burrow talked about it as well. DJ Turner mentioned how important it would be for him to be a captain this year. What does it mean for the locker room to be taking that step in leadership as well?
I think DJ Turner's personality growth has been one of the biggest I've seen ever covering the Bengals. A guy that 2 years ago, it didn't, and there's a difference between what they show us to the media and talking to the media, and the way they talk to each other and lead each other is completely different. But his personality change has been a 180 since he's gotten here. And I think back to this all the time, and I know Cam Taylor-Britt's not here anymore, but Cam Taylor-Britt said last year, he said, we need leadership wherever it comes from. It can be young guys, it can be rookies, whoever has that kind of personality and that skill to lead, we need it. And DJ Turner, I feel, feels so much differently about himself and his status on this team. And even in the organization, that now he feels like he's the guy in that room, the room being the DB room. And I think that's important because you're going to bring in guys like Dexter Lawrence. And Dexter Lawrence, I'd like to refer to him as like the hub. Okay, not just defensively on the field physically, but the energy. He's got a life force. He's got, overused word here, aura to him that we've seen on the field. So he brings that, yes. But to your point, there are guys that are already in the building that have kind of taken on that idea of leadership. And I think DJ is, to me, one of the really cool stories of not just his play taking off last year, but also his personality really lending itself to becoming that. So they've got some guys. Brian Cook obviously fits that. Dexter Lawrence fits that. But I think DJ Turner being an in-house guy that has shown that kind of growth in his time in Cincinnati, to me, is a great story and one I think needs to be rewarded. Right? Needs to be rewarded with another contract.
Yes,
and boy,
get that signed.
he didn't want to talk about that too much when I talked to him after day one of training camp. But yeah, he saw some of the numbers that other corners have gotten, and he said, that's good for me.
Yeah, he's in no rush with Witherspoon and Gonzalez waiting out there.
You're right. And, you know, the idea of betting on yourself, right? I get that. At the same time, I'm sure he would love to sign something as soon as possible and be taken care of. And I'm sure a lot of people watching this would agree with that as well. I think he's earned it. Not just with the way he's played, but the way he's grown as a person and a personality in that room.
I'm hoping we have that news come through by the end of camp before week one rolls around. It would be a perfect way to go into that week one game against the Bucs. But you mentioned leadership. Cannot have enough of that, especially on this defensive side that needs to improve from a season ago. But you bring up Dexter Lawrence, and I've seen reports from a handful of people, just his interactions that he has had out at camp so far. Have you noticed the impact that has gone beyond even just the guys on that defensive line?
So one of the great shows of training camp so far. And listen, you can go to training camp and you can say, oh, look, the linebackers had a great day yesterday. Oh, this person had a great day. It all doesn't matter until we get to see, and I won't believe a lot of this stuff until I see it actually in a game. But one of the great shows of training camp is going out there and seeing who Dexter Lawrence is going to mess with before they get going. So you've been around long enough around Bengals training camp that the first 15 minutes before practice, guys are kind of doing some individual stuff. He'll go to a different position group every day and try to mimic what they're doing. So yesterday he was with the DBs trying to do DB steps. A guy that big. It was so much fun to watch. He's a trip, okay? I think we all knew what the Bengals were getting potentially in the talent, the size, the athleticism, all that stuff. I'm not sure the Bengals knew what they were getting as far as the personality and the person. I mentioned that with DJ Turner, but this to me has been the story of the offseason. That we talked so much in Cincinnati about the big three, right? Joe, Jamar, and T. I said last night, you could play a drinking game with the number of times I say Joe, Jamar, and T, and you'll have 64 ounces of Bengals Kool-Aid within an hour. It's now a big four. It really legitimately is a big four. And I was even arguing last year that Chase Brown was trying to angle his way into making this a big four. He didn't get all the way there. I think he's got a potential to be a top 10 running back in the NFL this year, fantasy football drafters. But I also think that Dexter Lawrence is an A-lister. Okay? You have to be an A-lister to crack the big three here in Cincinnati. And if you go down to training camp, when they're walking across the street, there are levels to cheers. You know, Mike Gesicki gets a loud cheer, right? Andre Yoshivas gets a loud cheer, but the Joe, Jamar, T cheer is different. Dexter Lawrence is getting that.
Ooh.
It's different with him. And you can see the butterfly effect that his energy, his presence has on this entire defense, on the entire team. Guys believe. This team believes because of Dexter Lawrence. You know, they got Brian Cook and Boye Mafe and Jonathan Allen, and people were really excited, as they should have been. Like, oh, look at the Bengals. They're actually doing some stuff to make this defense better overnight. When they got Dexter Lawrence, this went from a big three to a big four, and a big four means big expectations and perhaps a big year in Cincinnati.
How important is it to have some of that marquee talent on defense? Such a discrepancy talent-wise over the last few years in the locker room, to have someone with that kind of gravity on the defensive side of the ball.
Gravity, I think it's legitimacy to everything they're doing, that they feel like they have a dude. I think and I did this research recently, that the idea of football fans saying, oh, if the Bengals could just get an average defense, it's not good enough to win Super Bowls. If you go back and look at the last 5 years, the teams who have won Super Bowls, they've all had defenses either in the top 10, most of them in the top 5, some of them in the top 1 or 2. So just getting the Bengals defense, somewhere around 15 or 17, we got Joe, Jamar, and TC, drink again. We're going to be fine. We're going to go to the playoffs. Yes, that will get you to the playoffs, but if you want to win playoff games, you want to win a Super Bowl, and that's what this is about, right? When you have those three in their prime, you want to win Super Bowls and compete for Super Bowls. You've got to have a guy. You've got to have a dude. You've got to have an alpha. And that is Dexter Lawrence. Brian Cook's a great player. Boye Mafe has all this potential. Myles Murphy might blossom. Cassius Howe is being used in a lot of different ways. Maybe the linebackers step up and have a better year in year 2. But if you don't have Dexter Lawrence, you don't have the alpha. You don't have the hub. He is the hub of everything they are on defense. He's the hub of talent. He's the hub of gravity. He's the hub of attention for the other team. He's the hub of personality. He's all of that. And that's why he's so important. And the Bengals did not have that. They would not have had that without Dexter Lawrence. I don't think if they don't have Dexter Lawrence, this is a legitimate Super Bowl team. It could have. Joe, Jamar, and T always have a shot in any game they play, and we've seen that before. But when you have Dexter Lawrence, you got one of the best teams in the NFL. What other team in the NFL can say you arguably have the best player at his position at 3 positions? Quarterback, wide receiver, defensive tackle. And the crazy thing to say is Joe Burrow might be the furthest down on that list of arguing for top 1 behind Jamar, who's 1 or 1A. Dexter Lawrence is 1 or 1A, and Joe's somewhere in the top 5, depending on your flavor of quarterback. So I don't know. Dexter Lawrence, to me, is the dude that legitimizes everything they want to do defensively.
He feels like the missing piece that they needed to go out and get. And also the Joe, Jamar, T, I think we're up to 4 or 5 mentions, so hopefully you're keeping count at home as well. There's been so much talk about Dexter Lawrence. We had a poll earlier this week. Which position group you're most excited? Defensive line by far ran away with the votes on that one. But when it comes to maybe under the radar or guys really looking to make a name for themselves, make a case for themselves, I've been really excited to see Eric All back out on the field. I think he's going to help take this offense to a different level. We're going to make sure he stays away from any vehicles or mopeds here in Cincinnati. Just an insane story. Yeah. But who's maybe someone that's catching your eye or that you're kind of going to be keeping a close attention to?
So it's interesting you mentioned offense first, because I kind of had this thought in my head that the offense is so set. It's like, who can even crack this offense? But it's Eric All. He's the one guy that, even though they bring back the starting 11 on offense, Eric All is a guy that they really do want to carve out a big role for, and the difference that can make going forward. If you want to get into the real nerdy football stuff, it's the Eric All conversation about how he can change them formationally, make them more versatile offensively, more under center stuff. That's smarter football people than me can really get into that. What I'm watching for, and I still think as much as Dexter Lawrence and all the other free agents we've talked about have made a difference, there are still some not holes, but concerns for this team. Most of them are depth-wise, and no NFL team is going to throw out 22 guys they feel 100% great about. That's just the way the league is. You can't hoard all of these great players onto one team. I just wonder if you get into January and the season's over and you say, what went wrong? And understand that, we can't predict health. You say, man, Bengals maybe just had 2 dudes that could play corner and didn't have any depth behind that. Behind DJ and Dax, would that be a problem? Man, the Bengals had those 2 second-year linebackers who, they took a step forward, but that's all they had. After that, there wasn't a lot of depth. So those are the positions I'm looking at, right? Or linebacker, can those guys take a step forward? Are there other guys besides DJ and Dax? That's great. But to me, the story of camp is who's going to emerge from edge. Because they had all these options. And the Bengals, people were saying it was good news yesterday when they got for Shemar Stewart. No, it was best case scenario news. It was not good news because this guy needs training camp desperately. A guy that needs to take a big step forward. He needs reps. He needs to prove himself. He needs to go out there and be the kind of guy that they drafted in the first round. But they have all these options at edge. You don't need me to name all 4 guys. How does this pecking order start to work itself out? Who's the guy they go to for big snaps in the fourth quarter? Because all these guys are going to play. You need waves of pass rushers. We've heard that from the Bengals coaches. We've heard that from Duke Tobin. But which of these guys is going to emerge and be the closer or be the setup guy, to take kind of a baseball analogy here? Because Trey Hendrickson was the closer. He was the fourth quarter guy who would get to the quarterback and get the sack on third down and get the team off the field, and the Bengals can go into 4-minute offense. I want to know what one of these guys or what 2 of these guys is going to pop. They need some of these guys to do that, because you're not going to win football games unless you have guys coming off the edge, creating chaos. They've got that set up in the middle now with Dexter Lawrence to kind of be one of those guys in the middle. Other options at defensive tackle. To me, the story of camp, the story of the preseason, and the story of the start of the season is, who's it going to be? Is it going to be Mafe? Is it going to be Murphy? Is it going to be one of the younger guys that's coming off the edge and really taking that position and saying, I'm going to be the closer that you guys can count on in the fourth quarter of games.
I can't remember the last time we've talked about a Bengals roster at this point in the offseason with options to get to the quarterback. It seems like there's a lot less questions than normal in late July, early August about the Bengals roster. How does this offseason add to some of that edge we've seen in camp and maybe some added pressure on the players and coaches that are out there on the field?
There's so much pressure on this team, and they know it. They've talked openly about it because we can all sit here and say the pressure's on Zach Taylor and this coaching staff, and it is. That's the reality of the NFL. You can't go 3 consecutive years, not make the playoffs, and then not feel pressure that your seat is starting to warm. I get it. It's more nuanced in Cincinnati by the organization, its history, and Zach does have some good bullet points on his resume. He went to a Super Bowl. He went to another AFC championship. So that goes into that nuanced conversation of what does Zach have to do to keep his job. But it's not just on the coaches. The pressure's on this team, and they know that. And I go back to a conversation I had with Mike Gesicki. Mike Gesicki said, look, they gave us everything we need to go win. Now it's on us to go win. And I think that's good. And I think that's part of the edge that you're seeing so far at training camp that Jamar was talking about, that Joe Burrow was talking about, the idea that this is it. You know, there are windows you get in sports. And, you know, the Ellie De La Cruz window of Cincinnati that's been disappointing. It's the Joe Burrow window is my entire career. Now they're in the Dexter Lawrence window. And it's not necessarily hubbed around Dexter. It's, okay, how long is he going to be in Cincinnati that when you're with the big 3 on offense and then you add the big 4 of Dexter Lawrence, there's this new window and there's a lot of pressure. Okay, pressure, what is it? Is it going to the playoffs? Is it winning playoff games? Is it winning the AFC, which is absolutely loaded this year? Is it winning the Super Bowl? What is the expectation? What's the pressure? I think that depends on who you talk to. But there's no doubt this should be a go-to and win playoff games team. And that's where the pressure is. There should be pressure when you put it together like this. The front office answered all of your questions. They got everybody that Bengals fans wanted them to get. Here they are now. Pressure's on the team to go do it.
No question about it. Back together weekend across the NFL coming up tomorrow at Paycor Stadium. Make sure to check out Fox 19 Now and Joe Daneman's team's coverage of it. You won't want to miss it. They will bring you the latest from Bengals camp. Joe, appreciate you swinging by the studio.
This is fun. I'm still waiting for confetti.
Maybe next time. We'll see. Each time you're in here, we'll take it to the next level.
Up your game.
Make sure you stay with us here on First Word. More to come after the break.
The city lives and breathes sports, and now it finally has a morning show to match. I'm James Rapien, and this is First Word, the only morning sports show in Cincinnati and the place where every day starts. First Word, weekdays 7 to 11, part of the Crown Network.
I think ranking season continues, and the other constant of ranking season is disrespect to people with stripes on their helmet. It seems like a lot of helmet scouting here across the ESPN rankings from NFL execs, scouts, and coaches, and another one here. I don't really understand how you have Brian Cook outside of your top 10 safeties going into next season. He was just the #1 free agent safety, and I understand not every safety is a free agent, but this is a guy who's played at a very, very high level in Kansas City and won championships. We've seen a lot less garner a lot more respect throughout this offseason in rankings like this across various different position groups. I thought there was going to be a conversation about Brian Cook potentially being in the top 5. He is not. He is not in the top 10. He is not in the top 15. It is really, really shocking to me. And I think when you look at the numbers potentially, it's because he doesn't have those splash plays. He's not a huge turnover guy, only 6 passes defended last year. But when you look at some of the other numbers, he's just so good and so consistent. And that's the thing that maybe doesn't jump off the page when you look at the box score or pull up Pro Football Focus or anything along those lines. But this is a guy who was the #4 overall safety, according to PFF, in 2025. He had the #6 coverage grade and the #15 run defense grade. He was top 10 in total missed tackles and had a 4.5% missed tackle rate, which was last, or best, I should say, out of all safeties with his number of snaps. It's unbelievable what Brian Cook does out there. It's going to be a welcome sight for Bengals fans to watch him in the back end. People are going to figure it out, I guess, this year. I didn't realize how many people are going to be shocked by this year's Bengals team, but it seems like a lot of them will be.
Hello, my name is Natalie Jones, and welcome to the Nat Jones Show. After retiring from my 10-year radio career here in Cincinnati, I caught the bug, and I'm happy to bring it here to the Crown. I love captivating people who have captivating stories to tell. And the thing about it is, everybody has a story to tell. All you got to do is empower them to do so. That is exactly what I'm doing here. Because life is better when we all stay curious and we all stay connected.
Cincinnati means business. And what does that mean for you and your community? The Working Lunch, every weekday at noon, takes you behind the local business scene with local headlines, interviews with owners and local leaders. The Working Lunch with Jack Crumley, only on The Crown.
On the radio here in Cincinnati.
Cincinnati has always felt like home.
Right here on the Crown Network.
Out and about in Cincinnati, bringing you the stories that you need to hear in the Queen City. Huge shout out to Joe Daneman for joining us at the First Word desk this morning to talk all about Bengals training camp. But now we need to shift our focus to our What's the Word poll question of the day, because the NFL Top 100 has continued to unveil players. And I will be honest, I was not expecting to see Joe Burrow's name come up as soon as it did, because QB1 is in at number 44 on this year's countdown, a significant drop from the number 6 ranking he had last season. So we asked you, did you think it was too high, too low, or seems about right? Well, seems about right is where the control room falls, with about 17% of you. I am in the camp with the majority of the 77% of you that's saying it's way too low for Joey B.
I think I'm with the control room, that it seems about right, and such a head scratcher for the parameters of the top 100 that leads to these debates when players are announced. But a lot of responses shared my thoughts as well. Those lists are so dumb. Great username, great take. If they had to redraft the NFL tomorrow, there's no way he wouldn't be a top 5 pick. That is absolutely correct. If they're doing it based on that, he should have been a top 5 in this for sure.
Yeah, also love seeing the X on the end there in that user handle as well. This response, given the context of his injuries, that seems fine with me. If he's healthy this year, I expect him to jump into the top 10. You know what, Joe from Cincinnati? I kind of agree with you there. And then I'm confused what they are basing it off of. Honestly, same with all of these rankings. I mean, 2025 sixth season alone, he shouldn't even be near 44. He played 8 games. If it's based on overall, he's easily top 3 quarterback, which should put him near the top 10. Could not agree more, Ryan.
That's the frustration with the top 100 every year. What is it ranking? There is no kind of consistency from the top to bottom. Some people say it's for next year. Some people say it's off last year. Let's just figure it out, please.
We will try to figure it out. Coming up next after the break, we are going to dive into more of Joe Burrow's 44 ranking on the NFL Top 100. Keep it here on First Word.
The Crown has you covered. Start your day with First Word, Cincinnati's only morning sports show. Power through midday with the Working Lunch, Cincinnati business talk that keeps you in the know. Nat tries that for lifestyle around the city, and the Rebound Rundown covers every corner of the college basketball scene in the tri-state and beyond. This is The Crown. First Word for your morning sports, Nat tries that for lifestyle around the city, the Working Lunch for business that hits home, and Rebound Rundown for college hoops. This city deserves its crown. Watch, listen, subscribe. But just top takeaways from Joe Flacco on quarterback.
I would say my top takeaway was one of the very last scenes of the show.
Oh.
And that was after they played the Browns, and there was Browns players fighting to get his jersey. And David Njoku basically pushed a rookie tight end away. He's like, no, this is mine. And that just shows you that, and yeah, they know, they probably knew, oh, this might be his last game ever. I want to have that jersey. But I think it was more about the person and what he meant. And he wasn't even there that long, and he built that relationship with those guys. Now, yeah, he was there previously, too, with Njoku. But that's just who he is. And we saw it even when he came, not watching the show, but you saw it in real time, what he meant when he comes in and gets hurt and is playing through the pain. And Zach talked about it last year, and Zach talked about it on the show, that he doesn't even know these guys, and he's willing to put his body on the line like that. He's willing to get a shot and go back into the game when he's got a sore shoulder, his finger gets dislocated, and you say football, fingers, not a big deal, but with your quarterback, that's a huge deal. It's hard to grip the ball, and it's hard to throw. So that was my main takeaway. I really thought that we were going to see him be not a cameo, but a bit player in that series. And I'll have to go back and look, because I did write down all the times. He may have had more airtime than any of the quarterbacks on that show, because that's just who he is, the personality. He's just an interesting guy. And I think that plays well on TV. I don't know how being an interesting guy plays in the locker room, but being a great teammate certainly does, especially when you're a backup quarterback and you got to know your role. You can't be fighting there and trying to steal playing time.
My name is James Rapien, and I host First Word every weekday morning, 7 to 11, right here on The Crown. Prior to joining The Crown Network, I covered the Bengals for Sports Illustrated for 6 seasons. I also am the founder of Cincinnati Bengals Talk on YouTube and wrote the book, Enter the Jungle, a history of the Cincinnati Bengals. Couldn't be more excited to join you every weekday morning for First Word right here on The Crown.
This city deserves its crown. Watch, listen, subscribe.
It's a fired up Friday here on First Word as we are with you all the way until 11 o'clock this morning. Thanks for tuning in and watching. I'm Marisa Contipelli, joined by Jacob Tissot. We missed James Rapien at the desk this week, but I'm sure we'll have him back next week, and hopefully he's been following along with us.
We'll see. At this point, I don't know if he's ever coming back, so hopefully he's back next week. We'll find out.
I'm a little bit more confident and optimistic than Jacob is, so I guess we'll find out what happens on Monday if James is sitting here or not.
See,
but if he's
I'm gonna
not,
slide back down. I miss my spot. It's nice when Paul's here.
Yeah, it's been weird not being on that side with you too.
Yeah, we need the line back. The line is important.
Yeah, the line's important, but regardless if James is here or if he's not, hopefully he's watching with us. And here's how you can watch us each and every weekday morning on The Crown. Also with you on the Rock Entertainment Sportsnet and our YouTube stream, which we appreciate each and every one of you in the chat with us each and every morning, but we are not done there. We have Nat Tries That, the Nat Jones Show, and the Rebound Rundown for you, all available on demand. And I promise you, coming up at noon today, you do not want to miss the Working Lunch with Jack Crumley. He has a really, really great show on deck for you. Going to be talking about updates and history of the city of Newport, and I think there might even be a First Word countdown mention today as well.
He's always in business.
It's fantastic.
Just cooks from 12 to 1 on RESN every single day.
He does. Gotta love it. So yeah, make sure you check in the Working Lunch with Jack coming up at noon. But for right now, we've got to get back to talking about this NFL Top 100 because Joe Burrow was the latest Bengal to make the list and ranking, and I I saw his name far sooner than I was expecting to. Last season, Joe Burrow was in the top 10. This year, coming in at number 44 on the NFL Top 100 list.
Let's go, guys. Come on.
You could compare the two. Like, they're in the pocket, smart kind of quarterbacks. Pick up reads and, like, blitzes easily.
Slant. Nice. Touchdown.
To me, he's a tremendous player. I love the way that he leads this team.
Yeah, I kind of think they play similar.
We'll show you.
I feel like Joe Burrow is just kind of like super even the whole time.
Got some crumbs on me.
Ice, man. Ice. Joe Ice.
I had a little waffle.
Pressure doesn't get to him. He's cool, calm, and collected in any environment and under any situation.
Burrow fires toward the end zone.
Nice.
Caught. Nice. A slant to Jamar Chase. Bubbles.
His arm talent is one of a kind.
There's small windows, and then there's whatever that was that he just threw through.
He just lets it go and trusting his guys to go make a play, and he's been making a ton of plays too.
Burrow drops back from the 10, floats it high and deep down the sideline. Higgins with the catch.
The way he approaches the game and how he's able to pick apart defenses is really cool.
Here is that movement in the pocket. His eyes are always downfield wanting to throw the football, and it's the movement of the feet, kind of getting into an area where you get clear throwing lanes.
Moving to his right, floats it down the field, caught on the run.
Every time he's out there, you got to be aware of him, and he's dangerous every time he's healthy, so you got to be ready to go.
This is so good. There is nothing that Jack Jones could possibly do when you throw the ball in that position.
I love Joe Burrow. I loved his game, loved his mindset and mentality. Doesn't say a lot, doesn't need to say a lot because he's so good.
I always love when you hear Joe's peers talk about the quarterback and how great he is at the quarterback position, and especially comparing him to the likes of Tom Brady. But here's a fantastic stat that NFL Plus posted as well. Burrow was the third player in league history to reach 150 touchdown passes in their first 75 games. Also became the fifth in NFL history with 20,000 or more yards in their first 75 games as well. He should be higher. He should be higher.
Stats like that should put you much closer to that number 6 last year than that number 44 this year. I know the health is a problem. Only played 8 games last year, but even in those 8 games, he was great. At least for the most part, was doing enough to get this Bengals team in contention, finding somewhat of a path to win out and try to make the playoffs, at least for the first few games when he returned from the injury. I think Joe Burrow's season last year is a huge positive for him moving forward. The way he fought back from the injury, the commitment to get back to the field and put his best foot forward to give this Bengals team a chance when it would have been so easy, and I'm sure so many other players would have just shut it down, called it a day, and said we'll attack next season. Joe didn't do that. He worked every single day to get back on the field, and he did get back on the field when a lot of people didn't expect him to. I think that injury last season is drastically different than other injuries that caused people to miss time because he fought back, and he showed that he didn't lose much after that injury, if anything at all. We're talking about other injuries for quarterbacks in the NFL that we haven't seen them since by the time week 1 rolls around here. How does a torn ACL affect a player like Patrick Mahomes? We've seen Joe Burrow win games since his injury this season. When you're comparing him with other quarterbacks with the same question marks, I just don't understand why he's below them.
No, and you're not telling me there are 43 players better than Joe Burrow in the NFL. And this 44 ranking, the lowest that Joe Burrow has been ranked on the NFL Top 100 since 2021 when he was unranked, which makes sense given that he was coming off of the ACL injury his rookie season. But here's a look at where Joe has been ranked by the year. So was at number 6 in 2025, saw that uptick from the 2024 season. But going into 2024 was ranked 39th, was 6th again going into the 2023 season, and then ranked 21st in 2022. So this too was a surprise to me that it's the lowest he's been ranked in his career, but yet he's proven so much since he's been in the league. It just feels another kind of one of those like disrespectful moments that a Bengals player is facing.
Absolutely. And any guesses where he might be ranked next year? based on the trends there?
If I'm a betting woman, I'm going to say number 6.
Probably number 6.
Yeah.
Yeah. So about every other year, the people in the NFL remember how good Joe Burrow is. And it aligns with the injuries, and that's a real shame and something that we talk about here in Cincinnati a lot. How different would the conversations be around Joe Burrow if he was on the field more consistently? We saw numbers broken through the first 75 games of a career. He still would have broken those numbers. It just would have come a lot sooner if he was healthy. And I think that's the biggest thing with his view in the whole league. We talk about him a lot as a top 4, top 5 quarterback, and most people do. The way he gets dropped down is lists like this where you focus on missed time. And I just don't necessarily think that's fair when there's so many other players that have also missed significant time that aren't viewed the same way. I did think it was nice if Joe Burrow's going to come in at 40 that Lamar Jackson's coming in the 60s because they both missed significant time and one was better when they returned from the injuries last year. I don't think many people would argue that it was Joe Burrow. So at least there's some consistency there based on the quarterbacks in the AFC North. But I don't understand why Joe Burrow's 44 because if you're going to rank him based on the 8 games and the injury from last year, he should be lower. If you're going to rank him on any kind of projection or knowing what he is at the quarterback position, he should be in the top 10. So it really makes no sense to me.
So Burrow and Lamar seem to have been hindered in a sense because of the injuries they suffered. And here's a look at the 10 quarterbacks on the NFL top 100 so far. But if we're going to talk about quarterbacks suffering injuries and dropping on the list, I don't see Pat Mahomes' name on there.
Not at all. He played a lot of games last year towards ACL towards the end, but wasn't great when he was on the field. This is a Chiefs team that missed the playoffs last year, and I think a lot of people point to a torn ACL as to why the Chiefs missed the playoffs for Patrick Mahomes. He started the majority of the season. They had a convoluted path to get to the wild card before he got hurt. It was going to be a very tough task. I think he's talked about a lot differently, and the Chiefs are talked about a lot differently this offseason. If he hadn't gotten hurt in a negative sense, as crazy as that sounds, because if you're talking about the Chiefs sitting at home for the playoffs and Patrick Mahomes was healthy for it, then you could use that as a knock against him, like people usually do for Joe Burrow in 2024, regardless of the numbers that he put up. So I think a lot of people don't recognize, I guess, how late in the season Mahomes got hurt and how much control he had over the 2025 Kansas City Chiefs, because I fully expect him to still be ranked, and I feel a lot more confident in Joe Burrow going into next season than Patrick Mahomes.
Oh, absolutely. I would take Burrow over Mahomes any day of the week. I've been saying that for years. So Burrow's 10th quarterback on this list. I'm really scared of what we're about to count just now. So we're fully expecting Patrick Mahomes to be on there. We got Josh Allen, Justin Herbert,
Drake May, Matthew Stafford.
Drake May, Matthew Stafford,
Super
Jared
Bowl
Goff,
champion.
Sam Darnold.
Dak.
Potentially.
Jalen, potentially. We're talking about Joe Burrow not being a top 10 quarterback in the league, at least a chance of it.
No.
And the fact that that's a debate is absurd.
No.
There is no world where Joe Burrow should be outside of your top. I'll give you 6, maybe. You can have 6, maybe, but certainly should be in the top 5, and in my opinion, in the top 4. I think 4 quarterbacks have drastically separated themselves from everyone else in the league right now. I don't understand this sentiment that he's going to potentially be on the outside of the top 10. That is crazy, and not something I thought I was going to have to deal with this offseason.
Absolutely not a debate I was thinking we were going to have to make at the desk, and hopefully James will be back here with us next week to help us work through this, because there's no world where Joe Burrow is not a top 10 quarterback, not a top 5 quarterback. Let's be real here.
There's no world Joe Burrow isn't a top 10 player. Let's just be clear about this. He should be a top 10 player like he was last year and like he was 3 years ago. I don't know why he's not, much less not a top 10 quarterback.
In a weird roundabout way, is the NFL Top 100 list about to make our worst word of the week?
It just did, and we didn't even plan on it.
No.
Unbelievable to look at those names and see who could still be coming in ahead of Joe Burrow on this list. The opinion on the Bengals, where you hear so many people talk about potentially being a Super Bowl contender, doing enough to the defense to flip things, and then the complete 180 of another group saying, well, Joe Burrow's just going to get hurt again. This team's not good enough to compete. I don't think I've ever seen such a distinct split among a team without drastic talent discrepancies. I think over the last 3 years, we've seen a similar split of people here in Cincinnati being really optimistic about the Bengals, about Joe Burrow, about this offense, where people in the national media and outside of this city weren't necessarily as high on this team, and that was because we all knew that Joe Burrow could do it no matter what. If he's given the chance, he can always win those games. Joe Danneman just said the exact same thing when he joined us last segment. Now, we're talking about this year. There's actually a competitive roster on this team. And that's why I think the national media is not quite coming to grips with it yet, because they don't want the Bengals to be contenders. All the conversations as soon as they lost in 2021 was, well, Joe Burrow, first appearance in the Super Bowl, lost, he'll never get back. No one ever gets back. And since then, it's been trying to drive him outside of Cincinnati, and it's more rankings and conversations like this that can continue to, try to wedge put something in between the Bengals organization and Joe Burrow. Not the case. He has success, and he's going to have it this year, and he's going to continue to prove everyone wrong.
Regardless of what the national media thinks, the Bengals have Super Bowl aspirations, a large part because of Joe Burrow, but also because of the offseason acquisition of Dexter Lawrence. It's been great to see him out at Bengals camp. We're going to hear from the new defensive tackle coming up next. Please help me. I'm struggling to understand why this is still a topic of conversation in the way that it has been.
This week was like the 2026 NL Cy Young race for worst word. I mean, there were a billion of the best contenders we've ever had this week, and this one still won without really any debate. And I think it's for multiple reasons. One is what Dan Graziano said right there in the clip where he's talking about Joe Burrow going to L.A. Joe Burrow's never asked out of Cincinnati. No. Joe Burrow's never said that he wants to be moved. And then Mike Greenberg mentions the frustrations last year. At no point in those frustrations did he say he wants out of Cincinnati. So I don't understand the sentiment that if this season goes poorly, Joe Burrow will be on the outs. I don't understand that at all because we've never heard it from the Bengals and we've never heard it from Joe Burrow. So I don't get why everyone keeps planting their flag there. But the Joe Burrow of it all is just one piece of this. Why is everyone still talking about the Rams? The Rams drafted a quarterback in the top 15 this year in the draft. They have a rookie quarterback in Ty Simpson that they used their highest draft pick since Jared Verse on. They're not going to go move off of him for Joe Burrow after never seeing him play, or they wouldn't have drafted Ty Simpson. So I don't understand this conversation whatsoever. I think they're running out of options because all of these people that want Joe Burrow out of Cincinnati long before he was ever drafted here have had LA written down for a long time. And then when they draft Simpson in the draft this last season, it changes everything, and these people aren't ready to move off of it.
We are back with you on First Word on this Fired Up Friday edition here on The Crown. Alongside Jacob Tissot, I'm Marisa Contipelli, and we had Fox 19's Joe Daneman on the show last hour, and honestly, he got me fired up talking about Dexter Lawrence and just the impact he has seen him make already with his teammates.
Absolutely. It's what everyone was excited to see in training camp based on our poll earlier this week, and certainly one of the most exciting things I've seen so far is not just on the field what Dexter Lawrence has done, but before and after practice as well. The interactions with the teammates, messing with other position groups, and even pushing Joe Burrow a little bit before day one, all exactly what you want when you trade the 10th overall pick for someone who's supposed to be the man on this defense.
Yeah, and I also love seeing earlier this week, too, when media was in the locker room and they were talking to Dalton Reisner about, just going up against Dexter Lawrence after that first day of camp, and Dalton just lifted up his arm and showed how bloody he was. That was just absolutely phenomenal and fantastic. The Dexter Lawrence effect already taking shape in the Bengals locker room. So let's hear from the Bengals' newest nose tackle.
Joe noted how quickly that you applied pressure a few times today and how big, an obstacle it is to throw around you when you do.
I looked him in his eye a couple times. I didn't say much. I let him be the quarterback today. But it's good. It's just a competitive spirit, and that and me doing that is gonna help him get better. And him. Finding ways to, get around me and throw the ball around gonna help me get better. And, it's all situational. So it's good to test all those situations here in practice and camps. And so in the game, it's just second nature.
What he was saying, the size of the line, not just you, but the other guys, that it made for a different pocket for him.
Yeah, it's some big, healthy guys out there. Big, strong, healthy guys. So it's exciting group, a lot of talent, and just a lot of knowledge. I think that's the most important thing. We just got a lot of knowledge, and we just feed off each other, and we was communicating all practice. On even like the first day, we just communicating and letting each other know what we see and how we're going to attack different things. So it was good.
So what about facing Tech Harris from baseline?
It was fun. I love him. He's the most competitive guy I probably ever been against for real in practice. So it's a joy, and in practice it's easy to lose that edge, but he helps you keep it. Just how much of a pro he is.
When he yells +6, you know what he's talking about?
I didn't give a damn what he was talking about. See, just little things like that. I probably would have made a tackle, but he's yelling, it's a positive for the offense. But it's situations that you work through, and, you keep grinding and pushing each other.
You work all spring and summer. Is there a different feel once you get to this point, to training camp out there?
Yeah, for sure. Like I said, just the competitive spirits of everybody. Like it's a lot of alphas out there, and there's a lot of guys that want it. We have one common goal, and we're going to do whatever we can to reach it.
I think I would have said maybe the first stuff in camp might have been you and Ted and not Jamar and DJ. But Ted did say he yelled at you a few times.
Yeah. We was bickering. But that's just competitive spirit. We're not going to. It's going to get intense. But us fighting in practice is not going to help us get better. Totality. So we both good pros, and we know how to push each other and compete.
Did you think it got a little bit more chippy than it should have, or you called it off at about the right time?
No, it's perfect. Perfect.
Yeah.
Did you get a chance to check in on Shamar yet?
No, I literally just finished signing autographs. So.
How many did you sign?
Yeah.
Did you sign a few?
A bit. A good bit.
So what'd you think of the crowd?
It was. I loved it. Intense. It was fun. Even walking out to practice, they yelling my name. So, I love that. It's just up to me to keep that going.
For you personally, when you made the call, or when the news came out in April, how has it been? Just like a blur from then to now, or how has it been?
It's been very welcoming. Everybody here has helped me fit in, from OB, from Ted, from the coaches, from BJ, to all the guys. Just helped me, fit in and, get a just fit into the area and, find the right people to help, with little things. So it's been good.
Before we unpack what we just heard from Dexter Lawrence, I have to give a quick shout out to our control room. They've been cooking back there in every way, shape possible. They've been absolutely phenomenal. Love our guys in the control room. But Dexter Lawrence, really enjoyed hearing him talk about that competitive spirit out in camp. I think I equally love him talking about those O linemen and calling out like Orlando and Ted and those guys for really, helping keep that competitive spirit going and just that competition we're going to see in the trenches.
Now you have leaders on both sides of the ball in the trenches, and how important is that to be the group that everyone can look to? Obviously, you'll take leadership wherever it'll come on the team, and anyone that can step into that role is a great thing to find. But to have guys on that'll more than likely be wearing C's on their jerseys this year in the middle of both offensive and defensive line, with Dexter Lawrence filling that role on defense, and then the guys that have done it year over year, and Ted Karras and Orlando Brown on offense, I don't know what better people to look to in the league there are than them. We talk about Amarius Mims and the step he can hopefully make, Dylan Fairchild as well on the offensive line. Well, that's because of Ted Karras and Orlando Brown that there's so much confidence that these guys could continue to improve early in their careers. Now Dexter Lawrence can apply that same thing to the defensive line and also work with the offensive line the same way we talked about Jamar Chase and DJ Turner making each other better. Have elite players on both sides that can make those one-on-one groups a lot better as well. So not only is Dexter going to make the team better by the production he does himself, but having the ability to go against Dexter Lawrence every day, Monday through Friday, and not have to play him on Sundays helps a lot as well.
Despite what certain rankings say nationally, the Bengals have the potential to have both a top 10 offensive line and top 10 defensive line. Obviously, Dexter Lawrence physically out there on the D-line gives you the most confidence in that happening. But to what you were just saying, them going against each other every day in practice, I already expected this Bengals offensive line to take another step forward and to improve upon what we saw in 2025, which was a very good Bengals offensive line, but you're bringing all back the 5 starters. You have that consistency, that continuity. Dylan Fairchild is going to grow here in year 2. I'm really excited to see Amarius Mims take that next leap, really, lock down being that cornerstone right tackle of the Bengals' future for hopefully a decade to come. Having those 5 guys go against Dexter Lawrence every day in practice, they're only going to continue to get better. I'm really excited to see just how big of an improvement we're going to see on both sides of the ball there.
And then for Dexter to go out of his way to push the people that maybe he's not going up against in every position group. It's easy just in the flow of practice to do that with the offensive line and make those guys better and seek out those matchups. It's not as easy for the DBs in the room to be affected by Dexter Lawrence, or Joe Burrow to have a conversation with Dexter Lawrence, other than maybe right after a sack in a team period or something along those lines. For Dexter to make such an exerted effort before practice to go out and talk to the DBs, to go out and push Joe Burrow before the first day of training camp, all of that just brings it home to me that he's the right player to add to this defense. The Bengals defense needed talent. There's no question about that. We've all known that for the last 3 years, and he's one of the most talented players to ever become available on a defensive line. Bengals went out and got him, and that's great. But the Bengals needed a lot more than talent on defense this year, and his willingness to kind of put himself out there on a new team when that was a concern that was listed from the Giants when he was put on the trade block, that he wasn't committed to the franchise. He wasn't committed to the locker room, and he wasn't working as hard as he could be. Haven't seen any of that since he's gotten to Cincinnati. It couldn't be more flipped than some of the nightmare stories that came out of New York before he was moved. And maybe that's just a change of scenery was needed or a chip on his shoulder now, but whatever it is, Dexter Lawrence is exactly the player that the Bengals needed to add to this defense. And honestly, at this point, I think production might be second or third on the list.
You couldn't get Dexter Lawrence to leave the facility back there in the spring. He was there, it felt like, every single day. And during the voluntary portion, it wasn't mandatory. He didn't have to be here, a veteran of his status. He could have gone and trained wherever, but he chose to be here in Cincinnati, spending that extra time getting to know his teammates. It's going to go a long way. And another position group that we hadn't mentioned yet that he's going to have a massive impact on, the linebackers. And I'm really starting to wonder if we've already started to see glimpses of that day 2 out at practice. What did we see? Well, Barrett Carter blew up the middle of a play, went right up the gut there, and forced a turnover where Demetrius Knight was on the receiving end getting an interception.
It seems like there's a level of comfortability for these linebackers that we didn't see last year. And obviously a lot of that's going to come from it being the second season, the familiarity with the scheme and the position you're playing now, but also having these pieces in the front of the defensive line. Dexter Lawrence, obviously, we just heard from him and how much of an impact he's going to make, but also Jonathan Allen and B.J. Hill, who hasn't practiced yet in training camp, but a lot of pieces on that defensive line that are going to make their lives easier. I think we've seen that already. And when the play starts to really take a step up for those guys, I think that's where we're going to see Barrett Carter really thrive as a leader on this defense. Something we've heard a lot in training camp already, and even going back to mini camp when he joined us here in studio, that's something that he really prides himself on, being a leader of the defense, wearing that green dot, being someone that the other 10 guys out there can look to, and Dexter Lawrence is going to make their lives a lot easier. So if those guys can take big steps forward and get better on that second level for this Bengals defense, I really don't know what the limit is for this group, because I can see a path for the edge rush room to be great, and it's just progression for players that were picked in the first round. That happens every single year. The defensive line on the interior, I think it will be great. There's not really a path there for me. I'd be surprised if it wasn't. Corners, we've talked about a ton this year, and then I'm really high on the Brian Cook-Jordan Battle safety duo. So linebackers are the question mark, and I think the way you make their lives easier is you get good pieces all around them if you're not going to add to the linebacker room. So barring injury, I'm very confident in that group, and I think 80% of why is because of Dexter Lawrence.
Mm-hmm. It's nice to have some excitement surrounding the defense this time of year, and not just one position group, nearly every guy that's out there. So excited to see what day 3 of camp brings for the Bengals, along with the weekend, with back together weekend across the NFL.
Scuffle? Yes or no?
For today?
Today.
No. I'm going to say we'll have another one maybe Monday when they're in pads.
I think that's a safe bet. I think that's a safe bet.
I think today is just a walkthrough from what I was seeing on X. I don't think they're a full-blown practice today.
I don't know if I'd put it past these guys based on what we saw day 1.
That's a great point.
Wouldn't
hate it. Wouldn't hate it. We will see what the rest of the day ends up bringing. But coming up next here on First Word, well, there's a big pitching matchup happening over at Great American Ballpark later on tonight. Paul Skeens and Hunter Green will be on the mound. We'll give you the preview next. Comes to James Brooks, you got to play with him for a handful of years. I mean, what was it like, being one of the linemen, blocking for him, especially when he would hit a hole like he would?
Well, first of all, I'm old school. I didn't talk a lot during games, and JB loved to talk trash. I mean, it was like, and why not? He could back it up. But, it was fun. It was fun because, it's funny. I always give a little history on the zone blocking scheme because people think it's something new, but we ran it just about my whole career, and to have a guy like James Brooks running it was fun because you just take care of your job, and all of a sudden all you see is the back of 21 and Brooks on the back. The guy was amazing hitting holes, and like I said, if there wasn't much of a hole, he made the hole because the strength that guy had as a running back was amazing. I mean, like I said, he could run around you and he could run through you. So being able to block for James Brooks was a lot of fun, and of course we had some great linemen that we worked together to do that. And like I said, I mean, you could play action fake, and if Boomer didn't see anything downfield, he could always, dump it off to JB, and it was an automatic catch because JB didn't drop many things, and then he would do his thing after that, running the football. So just an all-around great running back, so it's great to have him in the Ring of Honor.
Championship 2 years ago, fell a little bit short last year. The schedule is no joke this season. Takes a little bit of a step forward from last year. How do you think the Buckeyes are going to attack a much more difficult schedule than they've seen in the last couple seasons?
Yeah, Jacob, this schedule is crazy when you think about it. They have road games at Texas, which is predicted to be in the top 3 or 4. Another road game at USC, which is projected to be in the top 15. Then also at Iowa, which is a top 20 team potentially, at Nebraska, very tough place to play. And your easy one was supposed to be at Indiana, which has been down forever, except they're the defending national champions. So this is by far the toughest road schedule that I can ever recall from Ohio State. Oh, and then at home, you're going to play Illinois, which was a top 25 team last year, Oregon, which is predicted by some to win the national championship this year, and your rival, Michigan, with its new head coach, Kyle Whittingham, wanting to come in and establish something right away. So it doesn't get much tougher than those 8 games right there that we outlined. And I think it's going to be, if they get to the end of this season 11-1 or 12-0, they will have really accomplished something.
Cincinnati, home to more than a dozen Fortune 500 companies. A city where you know someone who knows someone, and you're in business. Every weekday at noon, The Working Lunch brings you headlines from local businesses, along with exclusive interviews with owners and local leaders. East Side, West Side, northern suburbs, downtown over the Rhine, and northern Kentucky. Real conversations, real Cincinnati. The Working Lunch with Jack Crumley. Weekdays at noon, only on The Crown.
This city deserves its crown. Watch, listen, subscribe.
Welcome back into First Word here on The Crown with you all the way until 11 o'clock this morning alongside Jacob Tissot. I'm Marisa Contipelli, and time to get you set for a very marquee pitching matchup that we will have over at Great American Ballpark coming up later on this evening. It's Hunter Greene and Paul Skeens on the mound. And Jacob, I know this is one that you have had circled. You adjusted your schedule to make sure you'd be there tonight.
Yeah, now you can't even be excited about it because it's potentially the last Green Day of all time. How are you supposed to get excited to go down to the ballpark to watch Hunter Greene pitch one last time for the Cincinnati Reds?
It's not confirmed he's going anywhere.
But it feels like it's trending in the wrong direction. He could still be a Red come Tuesday. I certainly hope so, and it would be a huge mistake if he's not. Yesterday was a big problem in terms of people on my side of the fence that don't want the Reds to move Hunter Greene. There was a lot of noise yesterday that it's trending in the other direction, that he could potentially be on the move, and that's a pill that's going to be really, really hard for me to swallow. If it is the last Green Day for the Reds, we'll see him tonight against Paul Skeens, the matchup you hope for when the Reds and Pirates are facing off, because these are two of the most exciting pitchers in all of baseball, and that exactly right there is why Hunter Greene should not be on the move. Buster Olney and Ken Rosenthal both talking about Greene as a potential trade candidate. Olney said the deadline odds are about 50-50. Rosenthal brings it home saying the Reds are drawing significant interest, went on to say multiple teams. But the one that's headlining it for everybody is the Los Angeles Dodgers. They are split between Tariq Skubal and Hunter Greene based on which ace they want to go after. And right now, it seems like there's a slight push towards Hunter Greene.
And I really hope this isn't the final Green Day, because we got to give our guy Jacob here a shout out for your creativity on the lower third that you see on our screen right now. He's been really hyped about this all morning.
That's where I'd be. I'd be on the Boulevard of Broken Dreams if there's no more Green Days at Great American Ballpark. It's sad.
And if this is the final Green Day, then wake me up when September ends at this point.
That's
because
right. We just got to get through the season if he's not going to be here for this team. And if he does get traded, I hope he has the time of his life in L.A., goes back home and continues to tear it up, because he's wanted to be in L.A. He talked about how great it was last year for the wild card round to go pitch in Dodger Stadium, the one he grew up going to as a fan. If there's a trade destination for him and he's not going to be wearing a Reds jersey, I hope it's the one he wants the most, and I hope it's the hometown team in the Dodgers, because I don't understand why there's some kind of sense around the Reds fan base right now that Hunter Greene has wronged this team, or Hunter Greene should be on the way out, or that the reception tonight, if it is his last start, should be anything other than thank you for the last few years. Over the last 2 seasons, when Hunter's had 19 and 23 starts on the mound, he's had a 2.75 ERA and been among the 5 best pitchers in baseball over those last 45 starts. He has been nails on the mound, as consistent as anyone could come. I got in a conversation yesterday that there's people in this Reds fan base that thinks Andrew Abbott is a better pitcher than Hunter Greene. Some of the numbers are certainly there. Andrew Abbott is not a better pitcher than Hunter Greene, and if there are people that feel that way, that tells me that Hunter Greene's value is in the gutter and he should not be moved. I think that's a concern as well as we talk about this. A lot of the points about why the Reds should move Hunter, you can't rely on him to be healthy. You can't rely on him to get through a season. So you think one of these other teams is going to give you maximum value for that arm back? When he is on the mound, he's as good as any pitcher in baseball. Right now, you're trading him at nearly low-end value. I don't understand why you do that unless you get blown away by an offer. I'm not a guy that's going to say don't trade him for anything, but you have to get blown away. And I just don't see that happening right now.
If this is the last time we have 21 guns out there in a Reds uniform on the mound, I will be a basket case, and I can't guarantee you if that's it for us with Green Day puns or not. But regardless, still really, I'm excited for this pitching matchup that's going to be happening, because despite what might happen with Hunter Green, I really hope he's a Red and he's not going anywhere. Despite Paul Skeens not having the statistical season that we have seen from him in the past, still two of the bigger names when it comes to starting pitchers across the majors, and should expect to see a pretty decent crowd over at Great American Ballpark tonight too. But taking a closer look at this matchup on the season, Hunter Green obviously looking to have maybe a bounce back start from his last time out, and here you can take another look at the numbers. But Paul Skeens, the Reds jumped on him last time around. They faced him on June 26th, handed Skeens a loss, got 4 runs, 6 hits off of him in 5 innings. And Skeens has had, it's just kind of been an up and down season. His last start, too, coming last Saturday, gave up 5 earned in just over 5. So there is a recipe to success. And looking at all-time numbers, Tyler Stevenson batting .455 against Skeens, 5 for 11 in his career.
No better time for Tyler Stevenson to have a big night than tonight against Paul Skeens right before the trade deadline. A name whose value continues to rise over the last few days. And I think if he has a big game tonight, we could be talking about even higher value for Tyler Stevenson around the trade deadline. And I right now, with Paul Skeens specifically, his name's carrying so much weight this season for how he's viewed in the rotation. And I'm not selling Paul Skeens stock. I don't think anyone should be out on Paul Skeens. He's one of the best pitchers in baseball and has proven that over a long enough sample size that this season, as an outlier, is not as big of a concern for me as it would be for others. And it's crazy to sit here and say that a 3.6 ERA is an outlier. It's a horrible season for Skeens because we're used to him in the ones. So it's a big shift for him this year. And I think a lot of times he's still viewed as that 1.9 pitcher when he just hasn't been so far this year. And the most notable thing for Skeens on the whole this season, his velocity has ticked down. His velocity on his fastball is down about 1.5 miles per hour, and that is a problem for a pitcher who relies on that overpowering stuff. So something to keep an eye on long term for one of the best young pitchers in this division, someone the Reds will have to face a lot over the next few years. But I love that Hunter Green's on the mound against Skeens because these are the type of matchups where he really thrives. Hunter has seemed to always throw his best stuff when the other team's best pitcher is on the mound as well. When he knows the Reds are only going to get 1 or 2 runs, he's going to go out there and get it done. And the one that always sticks out to me is a no-hitter he threw in Pittsburgh. Didn't get the win because the offense wasn't there, but was willing to stay out there the whole game and did everything he possibly could to get this Reds team a chance. He's going to do the same thing tonight against these Pirates. He's going to go out there and nail down this lineup. I've taken the strikeout prop as high as I could possibly get it because he's going to roll tonight in Great American Ballpark.
I sure hope that's the case and that the Reds lineup can just muster out a couple of runs because, yeah, that's kind of what it feels like. Right. That's all you need against Paul Skeens this evening. And
type of thing.
That's fine. We'll take a win's a win. Carry a little bit of momentum over from last night's walk-off. But when you look at Skeens' numbers, opponents batting nearly .280 off of him this season. That is a career high. As Jacob mentioned, the ERA up to a 3.65 on the season. Massive increase from the 1.96 his rookie year and 1.97 that he posted last season. Walk rate is up as well. So, yeah, very uncharacteristic year from Paul Skeens. However, at the end of the day, it is Paul Skeens. He does have the reputation. So it wouldn't surprise me if we see a Paul Skeens that we had seen each of the last 2 seasons, just hoping that won't be the case tonight. And the Reds can hopefully go up 2-0 in the series.
The biggest difference this year for Paul Skeens, obviously the velocity plays into it a little bit, but the value for his off-speed pitches. He's obviously been a fastball guy. That's the thing that made him a marquee pitcher at LSU, won a national championship, and got drafted first overall in the draft. And his fastball is just as good this year, 99th percentile in pitching run value. His off-speed last season, 98th percentile value. This season, 12th. A shocking drop-off for Paul Skeens off-speed pitching from 2025 to 2026. If he can't figure out how to reround that whole system out, then it's going to be a little bit of a problem as we project forward for the contract that he's inevitably going to sign, already being a Cy Young winner, multiple-time All-Star. Again, not concerned long-term about Paul Skeens, but that is a huge change in a massive part of his arsenal.
Yeah, it absolutely is. So we'll see what happens later tonight at Great American Ballpark, but have some other really great pitching matchups over the weekend as well. That's why it was so big for Rhett Lauder to go out and do what he did last night, help the Reds get that first win in the series, because now not only splitting with the Pirates looks very possible, we could be talking about a series win, because you have Hunter Green tonight, then you have Andrew Abbott tomorrow, and Chase Burns on Sunday. Sign me up for that lineup any day of the week.
I thought you were going to say it. I'll say it. If you'll just go series win, I'll go series sweep. Let's sweep the 4 games.
Every time I've said it hasn't happened.
If it's a 3-game series and it was Green, Abbott, Burns, we would be asking for a sweep.
We would.
That's where we're at right now.
Yes.
It's a 3-game series with Green, Abbott, and Burns. Go win all 3. You know you're going to have a chance. You know the starting pitching is going to do what they have to do. Go do something you haven't done all year and sweep a 4-game series against the division.
What? You make it sound easy.
Why not?
That broom has still been sitting over there. Rodney has not taken it home.
Yeah.
It's stayed in the studio.
It's a little bit alarming that we're going to get to the trade deadline without using a sweep. 2 months of the show. All of June, all of July.
Yeah. Some kind of curse that the broom brought with it. So
yeah, the broom. Not Casey.
It's the broom. Casey, we'll evaluate your stats another time, but not looking too great. Maybe if after this weekend they get the series win over the Pirates, then it might kind of come into question of what James, his stat line has been since he's been out.
We're going to have some uncomfortable conversations. I mean,
don't know.
He's lucky the Ohio Cup didn't go our way, because that would have been a really piling up against him in terms of the Reds' success when James isn't at the desk. So get the 4-game sweep, reassess after the trade deadline, and reassess James's position with the Reds.
I think that sounds like a plan. But regardless, if it's a sweep or a series win, getting a couple of wins over this Pittsburgh team, I think would go a long way, despite what the plans are at the trade deadline, whether the Reds decide to be buyers or, as we're anticipating, them being sellers.
How much pressure do you think's on Hunter Green tonight? Not necessarily from a win-loss standpoint, but the split in the fan base, the conversation around trading him or holding on to him, facing off against Paul Skeens, a pitcher you're supposed to be on the same level against. Not a good start last time, at least not the final inning he was in the game. How much pressure, even if he does stay here in Cincinnati, is there on Green to go out, throw a gem tonight in front of the home fans, and build back some of that trust within the fan base?
See, I want to say that there is some pressure on him to go out and do everything that you just said, but Hunter Green's a veteran. This isn't his first rodeo. He's been in high-pressure situations before. I don't think he's going to be fazed by it, but maybe he'll be feeling it a little bit, especially given kind of the uncertainty and question marks, because I'm sure he's heard some of these rumors that are going around.
Absolutely. I'm not one that thinks Hunter Green has anything more to prove as a pitcher in Major League Baseball, but shockingly, it seems like there are some in the Reds fan base that do. So hopefully he goes out there tonight and can get it done. Quality start, 7 innings, 10 Ks, whatever it takes. Look like the ace we all know you can be. And then let's move past this trade deadline, hopefully with Hunter Green still in a Reds uniform.
I sure hope so. I hope Monday morning when we come here at the desk, we are talking about a series win over the Pirates, maybe a series sweep. If that is Jacob's prediction, we will give you our full predictions coming up next here on First Word, along with a little preview of FC Cincinnati. They will be back in action tomorrow at TQL.
This city has always had something to prove. While the rest of the country talked about us, we built our own voice. Blue collar, underdogs, built differently, overlooked, talked about like we were supposed to stay quiet. But that was never who we were, because this city doesn't wait for permission. And neither do we. And now, for the first time, Cincinnati has a network built in its image, because the biggest stories in this city deserve more than highlights. This isn't cable television. This isn't national media. This is ours. This is the Crown.
Hi. Hi, my name is Natalie Jones, a Cincinnati native, and I have been in media for about 10 years now. Formerly on the radio here in Cincinnati, I grew my love and obsession with finding all things fun in Cincinnati and have now made it my life. I'm originally from the west side here, and then I've pretty much been a downtown girl ever since college. But I did leave for 7 years, and during that time, I really grew and harnessed and cut my teeth doing stand-up comedy in Los Angeles, learning how to ski in Colorado, and now I'm back here in Cincinnati, driven by curiosity and grounded by family.
We have breaking news from the Cincinnati Bengals announced their 2026 Ring of Honor inductees. And fans, thank you for getting this one right. James Brooks and Bob Trumpy, the next two to be inducted into the Ring of Honor with the new format and with the addition of some of the modern era players. I am thrilled, I'm ecstatic that these two legends are being inducted and being honored in this way. Absolutely deserved it this year.
Excitement, absolutely. A partial sigh of relief as well, and a huge thank you to the season ticket holders and fans that got this one right. Prioritizing the guys who have done it before, and it's a shame that Bob Trumpy won't get to have his day in the stadium to see his induction, but certainly well deserving of the moment. James Brooks as well. You ask anyone that's watched him play, a lot of people say he's the best running back to ever wear the stripes. So it's a very, very good class for the Ring of Honor. Two incredibly deserving players and absolute legends of the franchise. This is what you do a Ring of Honor for. So players like James Brooks, Bob Trumpy, and a long list of guys that have already been put in over the last few years get their recognition from the organization because they've given so much to it.
I'm Paul Fritchner. I'm a 2019 graduate of Xavier University, and I've been covering college basketball for 10 years here in the Cincinnati area. I'm the host of the Rebound Rundown, a daily college basketball podcast during the season and a weekly show in the off-season covering everything you need to know about your favorite team. And if you're not a fan of a team here in Cincinnati, I have you covered from the national perspective as well. Follow it on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts.
This city deserves its crown. Watch, listen, subscribe.
We are back with you here on First Word, and we have somewhat of breaking news, possibly here on the show. It might be a holiday here in Cincinnati over the weekend. We just put Jacob through a tizzy speculating if Hunter Green was going to be dealt or remain a Cincinnati Red, but we might have an update.
I couldn't be happier. This is the greatest tweet I've ever read in my life. Per Nightingale, the Reds are telling teams that Hunter Green is not available. Wow. Novel concept not to trade an ace-level pitcher. Glad the Reds got it right. We're going to see dueling aces at some point, at least this year, with Chase Burns and Hunter Green, and then to start next season as well. Really, really excited about this. Will not be the last Green Day in Cincinnati tonight.
Thank goodness. Glad we spent all that time speculating what would happen, what wouldn't happen, but this is a welcome update for us to receive. Teased it earlier in the show that there would be some Ohio State football talk, and there will be some Ohio State football talk now on this show. Media days were held up in Chicago earlier this week and had the opportunity to listen in to some of the Ohio State weapons that we will see on the field this season, and specifically the wide receivers.
Amazing to see over the last handful of years the wide receiver factory that Ohio State has become. You guys have been there for a little while. Can you put your finger on it? Like, how is it happening that this one program continues to do it year after year?
I think it started with the coaches, really. I mean, the coach recruiting the great players to come in and be learning the right things and doing things the right way. And we want to be the best receivers in the country, and it's going to continue to happen, from years and years out. So yeah.
Yeah, I think what you see is you have a great group of guys, and then the next group comes in and wants to be like them, and the next group comes in and just kind of keeps going and keeps building, and it's just it's a great brotherhood that they have there.
Boy, I cannot wait to see more Jeremiah Smith on my timeline, on my TV this fall. And no surprise that given those star-powered offensive weapons up there in Columbus, that Ohio State is right now the preseason favorite to win the Big Ten with a 39% chance per ESPN Analytics.
And the second best odds to make the playoffs. Big Ten, last 3 national champions. Ohio State, the best odds of any team that's willing to play in a conference to make the playoffs. Notre Dame comes in a little bit ahead of them with better odds. But that's what happens when you can build a schedule.
Well done.
Thank you.
Yeah, appreciate that. Yeah, excited to have more Ohio State coverage and talk for you throughout the fall, and as they will be opening up their camp, gearing up for the season to get underway in just a few short weeks. But we got to talk a little bit about FC Cincinnati because they will be back in action at TQL Stadium tomorrow night, taking on the San Jose Earthquakes. It is going to be their salute to service game, and we should expect to see Evander in the lineup. He was a little bit injured in that game, the MLS All-Star game this week, but nothing major. Should see him back out there, and this could be a big one for FCC on tomorrow night.
Yeah, absolutely. Coming back home after a tough loss in the rivalry game. Started the second half off with a great win, but had to, fall short in Columbus. Great to have Evander back after the scare at the MLS All-Star game. And this is a big one against San Jose. Their head coach, Bruce Arena, will face his son, Kenny Arena, who was just fined for his involvement in the tunnel at Columbus.
Yeah, and San Jose, they have the second highest goal differential in MLS behind only Vancouver. But you know what? FC Cincinnati took care of the Vancouver last Wednesday, so hopefully they can follow that up, taking care of San Jose. As you can see you here, 33 points in the standings. Just this gauntlet, it feels like FC Cincinnati had coming out of that World Cup break is hitting. But you dropped your one against your rival. Let's get back on track right here against another tough Western Conference opponent.
Yeah, stay strong at TQL. That fan base and everyone does such a great job of making that an advantage for FC Cincinnati. So get the win, keep winning at home, and it'll hopefully get you to a better spot by the end of the year.
Yeah, exactly. And hopefully we have a win from the Reds tonight over at Great American Ballpark. Give me your prediction for tonight, and then your series prediction, how it'll kind of, end out by Sunday.
2-1 Reds win tonight. Hunter Green, masterclass on the mound. Just one of the best starts we've ever seen from him in a Reds uniform. Wow. Then Andrew Abbott does his job. On Saturday, does not get the win, though. Looks good on the start, gets the loss. Chase Burns gets it done. Reds win the series 3-1.
I feel like it was maybe 6 minutes ago he was talking about sweep. And
Two
now
different segments, Marisa. You got to differentiate your portfolio.
You're just flip-flopping here way too easily.
Just put my money in multiple places.
I want to go back to you're predicting one of the best starts by Hunter Green in a Reds uniform. What does that look like?
7+ innings, 10+ Ks.
How many runs? Shutout?
1 or less.
If it's going to be one of his best starts ever, it has to be
7
a shutout.
innings, 12 Ks, 1 run would be among his best starts ever.
Give me a shutout.
I'll give you a shutout. Twist my arm. Hunter Green will get it done.
All right, I'm going to go 3-2 Reds tonight. I think Hunter Green gives up a run. I don't think it'll be one of his career best starts. I do think it'll be maybe one of his best starts of the season. Certainly a bounce back from last.
Neither of us with a lot of confidence this offense can score against Skeens.
I mean, the thing is, though, it's Skeen. Like,
they already did it once this year.
They did, and I get it. His numbers aren't as strong as what we are accustomed to seeing out of Paul Skeens, but it's this Reds lineup. I'm hoping they get out a couple, but 3 should get it done.
3 doubles again for Ellie tonight?
That'd be fantastic.
Why not?
Give me 4.
Give me 4.
Why not 4?
I'm all for it.
Here is that tweet, though, about the update with Hunter Green supposedly not available per Bob Nightingale. Welcome news and a holiday here in Cincinnati like no other. I'm kind of with you. I think the Reds will win the series 3-1. I'm just really torn on if it's going to be. I think they win tonight. If it's going to be Saturday or Sunday, I do have the utmost confidence in Chase Burns, but he's been on such a roll. I don't know. at some point you're going to have a couple of L's in there.
For sure, and I think we've started to see that with the velocity coming down a bit and the control getting a little bit more questionable with Burns. Saw it in that last start, even though the runs were unearned. Not quite the same pitcher we've seen before, and I think that's easy to see because of the innings limit, and he's going for career highs now. So this Reds team will probably look a lot different the next time we're talking to everyone here. So big series this weekend, and then trade deadline right around the corner.
Yeah, we will see what Monday brings, but thank you all for joining us today and all week here on First Word. But do not go anywhere, I promise you. The Working Lunch coming up at noon with Jack Crumley is one that you will not want to miss. And what are the odds? Will we see James Rapien at the desk next week? I guess we'll find out. Make sure to tune in Monday morning to find out with us.